Welcome to Alfredo's Size 3 Taco Truck, a Marvel Crisis Protocol podcast, where Dracula can dractivate and Frank can fractivate. But make sure that Blade never... I'm Vincent Curkov.
I'm Batman Value.
I'm Nate Horn.
I'm Alex Botts.
And we got monster spoilers.
Yay!
So naturally, we're going to talk about the new sponsor that Second Wind has. Woohoo! Second Wind has a new sponsor. Second Wind coming up. If you're not coming to Second Wind, message me on Discord and I will sell your ticket. If I successfully sell your ticket to someone on the wait list, you get your money back. Right? So no reason not to tell me if you're not coming. All right? If you're on the wait list, check your inboxes. I believe there's one person out there that hasn't replied to me. So check it. And we have a new sponsor for us. Everybody knows, or does everybody know Tyson? I don't know how well known Tyson is. Tyson runs LVO.
Yeah, if they've gone to LVO, they know Tyson. So most people listening know Tyson.
Tyson runs LVO. He's running a Kickstarter right now called Terraniacs, the City of Jasmine. He's essentially he's the terrain guy at LVO, and he paints all those boards and builds all those boards for LVO. And now he's got his own terrain company. It's currently all fantasy terrain. So not super RJM, but apparently MCP's up next if this goes well. So check him out. The link will be posted in the announcements of the Alfredo Size 3 Taco Truck Discord to announce him as a sponsor of Second Wind. We're still working out the exact details, but I'm hoping there'll be an STL in the swag bag. That's what I'm pushing for.
I do think, so you can also get to this Kickstarter if you go to secondwindchicago.com and scroll to the bottom and click on their logo. So it is fantasy stuff, but the church is really bitchin', and I actually think you could make a really fun monsters board with this terrain.
Yeah, this looks
yes.
Great. Yeah, this is cities in Europe still look like this.
Yeah,
this
looks like we're going to Belgium to play Guild Ball.
Yeah, exactly. Wow, this actually looks really cool. Those of you listening at home, you might think, listening to this podcast, that I'm like a hyper competent, super active participant in every project that I'm a part of. But that's actually not true. I actually don't pay attention to anything my friends say when we're not recording. So this is the first I've heard of this sponsor. But I'm looking at it now and you're getting my live reaction. Live reaction. It looks really good. You guys should go buy it and support them.
Yeah, they brought some of the pieces to CarlCon, so Vince and I got to handle them in person and play around with them, and they're nice. I like them a lot.
Yeah.
Well,
it's good stuff. I don't let just anybody sponsor Second Wind,
of course,
unless they're actually just handing me cash. If you handed me enough cash, you could sponsor Second Wind, but that's not what's going on here.
Which is why we're announcing our second new sponsor, Raytheon.
Raycon earbuds, everybody. Listen to them. All right. So Second Wind announcement out of the way. We went to CarlCon, and by we, I mean only the cool kids did. Yes. Me and Nate.
Yes.
Because you guys are fake friends of Carl.
There's only 32 slots.
we're slow friends of Carl.
It's more like we just wanted other people to, have a chance to win a tournament for once.
That's exactly right.
That's what I was thinking, at least.
Yes.
It's
nice to
definitely about that.
Yeah.
And how was your time at CarlCon? So Nate, you were TOing.
Yeah,
and Vince...
I mean, I had a great time. I was undefeated, and I got a mat and terrain out of the deal.
Nice.
So great use of time.
Gotta take a look at the rule set that you went undefeated and didn't win, but that's okay.
So I was the head judge again. Helps run the thing. I think it went really smoothly. The venue was great as always. The boards were great as always. Carl had a couple new ones, including a master mold factory, which is the one that he gifted to me because he wanted my mat for it. So now I have a master mold factory, which is pretty exciting. You'll see it on round 2 of the recorded videos that are be trickling out on Vince's channel. I think the first one will probably be out by the time this podcast goes out. Maybe the first 2, depending on how long this takes to edit. But if you want to see games from CarlCon, go to Vince's YouTube channel and check them out.
Yeah.
I don't think I have anything super interesting to say from the judge perspective. It went smoothly. The recording went mostly smoothly. We're learning about how to improve our recording setup. It is better than it was, and we have ideas to make it better still. But we had like a nice big arm to go over the table so we could have straight top down footage, and not the like weird offset angle that we had at NorCal Classic, which I think looks a lot bigger. And you get like bigger, and it's easier to see what the models are with that. We also had a specific dice cam and dice trays, along with 125% sized up dice by Frelinger made
Oh
us.
god, they're so cool, dude.
They're incredible.
Yeah, those look great.
Yeah.
They're super cool in person. So they're high contrast and larger than normal dice that we had for the stream table. And in the footage, there's so much more. Like you can actually see what the dice say when we're doing like commentary and watching the battle reports back, and it's a huge improvement. So thank you to Frelinger and his new. So he has a label now for all of his custom dice. Pineapple Probabilities. It has a sick logo. He's given out 6 stickers. But yeah, those stream dice made a big difference when it came time to do the commentary stuff. So thank you for those. I don't know.
How do you guys feel about top down versus the like angled, more tripod level thing? Because I think our setup looks fine. I just think the game looks better not from a top down perspective. Like, I think it's more visually interesting. It might be harder to understand what's going on in the game, which is obviously the trade-off. But I think, like, when you have that angled footage, it looks better. But it can be harder to gauge distances and, like play the game yourself in your head, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's more natural in a sense because it's like more like you're standing at the you're standing next to the table. Like when you're watching a game, you're not watching it from straight down. I mean, well, you might be, but I don't.
Yeah,
So,
not all
like,
of us are 6'4", Nate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can see why somebody would say that, but I think I still like the top down. But
Yeah, I guess I like the top down better too, because like I don't know, I don't really feel like I watch streamed tabletop games for the sort of visual narrative, you know? Like I don't really care that it looks cool, really. I mean, if it was like truly hideous, I guess that would bother me. But just like normally it's just a bunch of models on a table that you can't see very well anyway. It's not like you can admire their paint jobs even from the oblique angle, right? So to me it's just about getting as much information as possible, and for that the top down is better. But I don't really like, it doesn't ruin it for me when it's the angled thing. And I think either way, these streamed games, you're really relying on commentary. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think I liked the top down angle better, just because not having to worry, like you have models disappearing behind terrain less often, right?
Yeah.
And it's more flexible for different terrain setups, which especially at CarlCon where we put a different board under the camera every round, so you get to see 5 of the CarlCon boards. I think that works a little bit better top down. I don't have strong, like if we, I don't know if we're gonna have the big crane arm for second wind. So if we have to do that tripod angle again, I think that's fine. You know what I mean? But given the choice, I think I would pick top down.
What you want is you want the oblique angle, but you also want a unit 2 of just a guy holding a GoPro and doing some close-ups and extra angles and stuff. So
God.
you gotta just shoot coverage, so that then it all comes together in the end.
Have you actually watched any of the bat reps where people try to do that?
oh my god,
No, that's a thing.
Yeah,
It's the most popular, the most viewed battle reports on YouTube are freehand camera battle reports.
What?
yeah,
they're like doing cool zooms in on
They're,
like
like,
Thor's gonna
But
punch
like
this
the
guy
whole
and-
thing is free.
yeah. They'll
Yeah,
like,
it's
How much do
usually
you
like they
understand what's
play,
going on?
and then somebody like takes the camera around and is like, "This happened over here, and then over here on this map, this happened, and then over here, this happened," and then they go back to play, and they pause the camera, and they go back to playing the game.
What?
yeah.
Yeah.
But
That is to say that people don't. There isn't a lot of
but like when
viewership.
when someone streams chess, And the castle, you don't zoom in on the rook. Like what? What the fuck are you talking about?
Maybe just no one's tried that yet. Maybe it would be very
I guess
popular.
that's true. I mean, I've never seen that, so maybe it would be great. I don't know, but
I mean,
okay.
some of that is to try to show off the paint jobs, right?
Well,
Like
sure,
some
I
of that is
understand
to
that. I
show
mean, that's
off
cool.
the narrative of stuff like that. But yeah, there's battle report. Like some of them, you'll see them like reset. They'll show you like a top down at the end of a turn, and you can like get your bearings, and then it'll switch back and just do like flyover cams and stuff. But
That seems a little bit more reasonable. I mean, I would really only want to actually do that type of filming if one, it was like extreme to the point of satire, and two, we were willing to probably embarrass the person who loses and maybe make an enemy for life. Because like the main thing I would want to do is when there's like a big improbable roll, like someone rolls 4 dice and does 6 damage or something like that and turns the game on it. First of all, I would want air horns, but I would also want like a pretty deep zoom of the reaction of the person on the losing end of that, and to the point, and like, yeah, they would never talk to me again, but it would be worth it for the cinema. Anyway, that's pretty interesting. I guess I don't know. I mean,
I'll
the
find
paint
you
job
some
thing is like,
examples and send them to you so you know what you're getting
thank you.
yourself into.
I'll learn how to play Marvel too.
Also, I'm pretty much convinced, like as somebody who can't stand watching battle reports because I make them and I've ruined it for myself. I wanted a specific kind of battle report to exist, and then I beat the enjoyment of battle reports out of myself. That's if that's what the audience wants, we can change to that.
If the pigs want their slop, you'll give it to them. Yeah, that's fair.
I will. I'm not above it.
Fair enough. So Vince, how was your Carl Con experience? Give us a post-mortem.
It was good. I made a mistake that it took me like 2 or 3 hours to come to terms with, that it was even a mistake. And I ended up losing to Eric in a game where he spiked at exactly the right time, and I ended up losing by 1.
Very sad.
Essentially, there was like a full health Bucky and a full health Zemo both being hit by a dynamo beam that had 2 hammers. And I was like, I think I'm fine as long as Bucky doesn't instantly die here. And he did.
Yeah.
And I could have sacked to Zemo, but I thought it was really likely that neither died.
Yeah.
And I would get to activate Bucky in the Zemo bubble. And I'm not scared about Bucky getting shot because I could play Battlefield Medicine to clear that if it really came to it. And just like go ham with my 5 die reroll 2 whatever nonsense. But it really that's a 10%er for him to just get Bucky there, and I lost the game on it.
Yeah, because you were in the driver's seat up until that point for the most part. Like I know there was definitely some back and forth moments happening there, but at that time, if Bucky lives, you're solidly in control of the game, right?
Yeah, if
and
Bucky lives and does anything with his activation, I'm well in the driver's seat, and he was poised to have a really good one.
So it's like it's late enough in the game and close enough that you have to start watching out and playing around for those 10%ers. Whereas like turn 1, you don't play around the 10%ers nearly as much, right? You just got to roll with the punches. But this was late in the game.
And I clawed it back to within 1, and I lost on the final turn by 1 point. And then Eric went on to win the event.
Dang.
And that was game to get into finals. So I'm proud of how I played. I think I played well. I played only Defenders and X-Force and 1 Avengers player. That was my weekend.
Defenders and X-Men. You played X-Men, Defenders.
Woo!
Weird.
Which is the 2 best Defenders players in the universe, according to Longshanks.
Dang.
Yeah, I played against the number 1 Defenders player, and then after I beat him, he became the number 2 Defenders player, and then I had to play against the number 1 Defenders player again.
That's funny.
I also love that you beat Nobility in a game that apparently was 14-14. So good work.
Nice kill.
Yep. I tabled him playing Super Smash Clocks. An Alex Bots built list.
I invented it. I'm a genius. The smartest list builder in the galaxy. Here's my list advice, free for you. I'm setting up my Patreon listeners so you guys can get more advice like this. But for now, I'm going to give you this little bit free because you're supposed to give the first one free, right? So here's the advice: put Hulk in your list. End of advice. That's all I got.
So what was your list here, Vince, for people who don't know about this?
It's Time Namor Hulk Spectacular Spider-Man.
Hell yeah! Everybody's laughing. I think it's legitimately good.
No, this list is cool as hell.
Yeah,
and it works very well at what it's supposed to do.
It's so like, it's just really funny to be like, I'm playing Shield. Here's Hulk, Spider-Man, and Namor.
That's Shield.
Noted
That's
Shield
what Shield
agents.
is.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, essentially you just sit rep Hulk and you go, all right, put somebody on the midline, or Hulk's double tapping them and Namor's double tapping them.
Yeah.
Or use your last activation to put a model on it, on the researcher, and then Hulk's going to throw them off, and I'm going to have the researcher.
Yeah. And also, and you still get to hit him once first. You hit him and then throw him if
Yeah.
you want. And also you can, if you need to, if it's like a really, like if it's Gamma and something else and it's 15, so it's a weird setup, then Namor can both sit rep and safe grab, and then still have charge on line turn 2. But yeah, it's great.
Yeah, the list is really good, and like, I know I'm a weirdo that's on Time Namor, but I really think Time Namor is where you should be at in Shield specifically. I think also we've talked about this to death. You listen to last episode.
We didn't. So we talked about this a bunch at dinner after CarlCon too, right? We were talking to, because it was like you and me and Nobility, the other Defender players, and Eric were all on like one side of the table. And it's like 3 of the people who played the most amount of Namor, right? Because like every Defender's list plays a lot of Namor. You've been playing a lot of Namor. And I think the conclusion we all kind of agreed with was that if you have a power generating or sharing leadership, then you can not take the gem. But otherwise, Namor does get huge benefits from playing the gem. And if you're not sure and you're not in a power generating leadership, you should probably start with the time gem and go from there, because it really does make, like, that turn 1 is such a huge difference, which leads into the turn 2 that's markedly different, right? And those, it's important enough that it's, I think, often worth a threat. So I think right now you're the weirdo, but more people should be playing clocks.
Yeah, it looks bad on paper, but it's good. Like,
it doesn't look bad on paper.
I think it does. I've like, as somebody who's played it a bunch, it looks bad on paper. It's like one of the worst gems in the game, right? Making a character like more points, and I think it's really not obvious that it's good.
Kevin asked on our Discord for like recordings of our hot takes from our podcast over the years. I need someone to put together a separate recording of all the times that I was right ahead of time when reading a new model. Oh wait, no, sorry, we have that recording. It's just every episode. My bad. Never mind. Nobody needs to do that. We already got it.
Are you stealing Nate's Nate's bit? I'm never wrong.
I just want credit for clocks. Damn it! I can't.
What did I just spend the last 5 minutes doing?
Yeah, but you didn't say thank you, Alex Botts, Nobel Peace Prize winner. That's the part that was missing from that.
Record the commentary I've been bothering you about, and we'll do that on that episode.
Okay, fine.
Because we have that game recorded, and if Alex ever decides he's gonna do commentary again,
it's been 2 days. It's been 2 days. It's not like I said like I won't be speaking to you until December. I was like, I can't do it yesterday, and I couldn't do it today.
God, next you're gonna tell me you're not coming to Second Wind. Jeez.
Word. Well, cool. Anything else about CarlCon? Or sorry. I did want to ask you another question, Vince. So I know we'll get to this. I know you're kind of playing Monsters, playing Midnight Suns right now. But how are you feeling about your list overall after CarlCon? The Shield list, obviously.
So I think the Shield list has holes in it now. Like, I think we kind of had to contort ourselves at 15 because Shield needs to play both Researcher and Gamma to be a good team into the vast majority of the field, but we're no longer the best 15 in the game. I think the meta 15s all beat us, but thankfully Super Smash Clocks stomps them because they all struggle.
They don't beat you? I mean, if you can legally play this thing.
So he meant like the traditional Shield 15, right? Like the 15s he used to be doing before Super Smash Clocks, right? Because like, interesting fact about Vince's run at CarlCon, he did not play Nick Fury Jr. leadership a single time. It was Invader's leadership all 5 games.
Only put him on the table once.
I mean, I guess, yeah. I mean, I think, I guess this is just like a typographical quibble. Then, I mean, maybe you want to call that faction of invaders or something like that. But it's just mostly that like people say stuff similar to what you just said, where they're like, "I'm not playing Wakanda, I'm playing Thanos Wakanda," and it's like that's Wakanda.
No,
Like I'm not saying
I don't
it's
think
not
that's what I said. I think what I'm
okay.
trying to say is that like that the Smash Clocks list is a meta read. Like
I see.
if different stuff was strong at 15, like if it like what was
You would read
strong at 15 in like 2023 was still strong at 15, I don't think this list would stomp it. Like this list, I think
I see.
just loses to to a Shield 15,
That's
like a
interesting.
more
I hadn't thought
traditional
about
Shield
that. Yeah,
15.
yeah. If you get into the mirror, like, what do you do at
Right, like if
15?
it's
Yeah,
playing
that's
like a
kind of weird.
Helios laser or a Stark Armory thing, like it can go south so fast.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree with
Right,
that. That's probably true.
right. So it's like I'm adapting to the meta. Like it's a decision in that direction. I don't think I don't think this is the unbeatable 15. I think it's just good into what's popular and strong right now,
I
and
see.
likely to be at top tables.
Okay, fair enough.
Um, but yeah, I don't know. That's CarlCon. CarlCon's really good. Hopefully, it's going to be 64 players next year. It's still too early to tell, but we've got a venue in mind, and it's
yeah.
not.
So Carl has been talking to me about a venue. He has a line on a place that looks like it's going to give us a pretty sweet deal for a lot more space. Or not that we need more space, but in Sacramento proper, which means much closer to the airport than where CarlCon is right now, where it's like 45 minutes to an hour away from the airport. This will be in Sacramento proper, which means it's much easier to do 2 days. So fingers crossed, but it's looking very likely that we'll be doing 64-player 2-day CarlCon in 2025, which means Bots and Pat have to show up contractually.
Damn.
Yeah.
Required.
Absolutely. I will show up to TO.
Hell yeah. I love the cut of your jib, Pat.
I will be playing Elsa Bloodstone and Man Thing every game, and I will be winning all of my games.
Hype.
Yeah.
Exciting. Let's pivot into back of the box. Who
Yo.
doesn't love?
It's a very early back of the box.
Yeah,
It
wake up.
is, but our
Back
back half of the podcast is going to be chock full, and that's why people are
Front
here.
of
They
the
don't,
episode.
Yeah.
they're here for back of the box, and then they're going to check out. Nobody wants to hear about monsters.
And then
So
they're
let's
gonna
just
come
get this
back
done
for
early.
gasoline.
No, they're going to be gone by then. It's fine though.
All right. Alexander Bartholomew Box.
Hey,
How does back of the box work?
Back of the Box is the game show that everybody knows and loves, but in case you do not know or love it, Vince is going to read the back of the box of a Marvel Crisis Protocol product to Pat. Vince has blanked out a bunch of the like descriptive words, adjectives, and nouns, and so forth. So it's mostly just sentence structure and some key lingering words. And then Pat is going to try to guess what box this is. He is going to get 3 points if he guesses it on the first try, which will be after the first paragraph. He will get 2 points if he guesses it on the second try, which will be after the second paragraph. And then he will get 1 point after that if we do Valorant trivia that I forgot about. So Pat might not have an opportunity to get 1 point. We'll see. There are 3 backs of the boxes.
Yep.
Okay. And Pat is going to win if he gets 7 points.
Okay.
Excellent.
Cool.
All right, Pat.
And
this back of the
Bots
box
is gonna work on
is
trivia.
setting a record for fewest blanks across 3 boxes we've ever had.
Did you actually look that up?
I just know, dude.
You
I just know.
Well,
my brain is broken.
Fewest blanks doesn't tell me that much though, because you might have just like blanked an entire sentence and
right.
be counting that as one blank.
All right. Well, let's get into it. Hopefully, Nate doesn't lose his titties over this box. But here we go. Many villains have crossed blank's path, but few are as blank as the Colican of rogues in this black. Blank soars into battle in a blank suit as the blank embarking on a crime spree. Only the blank can stop. Once a common criminal, Blank has used his knowledge of engineering to create a pair of blank gauntlets that make him a blank threat to anything standing in his way.
You said buttle instead of battle.
Did say buttle.
Yeah, I couldn't tell.
It doesn't say battle. It says battle.
Oh,
I don't know who this is.
Oh.
Would you
That's
like
actually
paragraph
a very fun
2?
hint that's not going to help Pat, but I see what's happening.
I think I know who it is, but
I mean, I'm thinking about some of the new. Okay, I'm thinking about. Okay, you said gauntlets. I'm thinking about people punching things. The crossbones are in starter boxes. Don't know else who has gauntlets. There was a lot of crime, but then not crime, and I think this person is the not crime. But I wasn't really paying that much attention. So let's do the second paragraph.
Blank, aptly named Blank, uses his power over blank to blank. His way, uses his power over blank to blank his way unchecked through the city. Finally, Blank's body has been inextricably altered by irradiated Blank, granting him the ability to alter his size, shape, and strength. Formidable on their own, when teaming up together, they pose an undeniable Blank threat.
This is not good. You told me this was the easiest one we've ever done.
no, he said the fewest blanks, didn't he? But
Well,
is the fewest-
earlier he also told me.
Yeah,
yeah, he
I
said it
do
was
kind
the
of
easiest
think
one
this is the easiest one we've ever done, but like,
Um,
I also have
Clues here.
little judgment for how well you're going to guess stuff.
yeah, this is not. I don't know. You didn't say he like rides a flying chair, so that's about the level of hint I'm operating at. He's. I thought I just keep thinking of more people with gauntlets, but they're not helpful. Are there any that are a gaggle of people? Not really.
Also, there have been you've used up 2/3 of the blanks in the entire back of the box.
Okay. We're just gonna knock out the next two on the first one.
Yeah, sounds great.
I'm gonna go. Do you read these out of order?
I did not. This is actually a 1-paragraph one that I split in half.
Oh, what the fuck? Is this Ant-Man and Wasp?
This is not Ant-Man and Wasp.
Okay.
This is a
This
box
is
you own.
this is
a
a
box I own.
Colocan of rogues
Well, I don't
that
know.
soars into Buttle.
That just sounds like
And,
you had a seizure.
and is
That hint is like, I'm
grabbing
sure people in
him
the
at a
audience
bit
are enjoying that hint, but it's not going to help Pat.
oh, you intention. Okay,
He's
Colican,
reading the
that's what
box exactly.
They
Exactly
made
as
two typos in the
printed.
same sentence.
There's
Yeah.
3.
I remember people
Separate
talking about the
sentences, but
box
yeah.
with typos.
Yeah, it's that
But
one.
I don't remember what it was.
I'm ready with the Valiant trivia. So Pat's looking backwards at his
Yeah, I don't
boxes of
know. what it is.
models.
We were all confused about about the name of this box. Nobody knew the name of this box.
What's the last model you assembled that has gauntlets, Pat?
What makes you think I assembled it?
I'm very certain you assembled this
I'm
model.
pretty certain you assembled this model too. but-
He's very French.
This is not
All right,
helping.
all right, Pat. Here's your Valor trivia. 2Game
Great.
esports just
Oh,
ascended to the Tier 1 Americas League. Name
Yeah.
any player from 2G esports.
I believe one of them is like Silence with a TZ.
Is that your
Something.
final answer?
Yeah.
That is correct. It's technically 2 Z's, but I'll give it to
Yeah,
you.
okay,
I wasn't
yeah.
expecting you to perfectly spell anything. So Pat gets 1 point, and the box was
Ooh.
the most recent Spider Foes.
Oh, I don't own that box.
What?
Yeah.
You
That he
guys
spelled-
insisted on lying to me.
Didn't we go on a hunt for it like a whole
Yeah, and
bunch,
I
like all over?
I didn't acquire one.
Oh, okay. Well, that's
Oh
true.
yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, right. We were calling places and they couldn't.
Yeah.
I demand a recount.
All right. No,
Yeah,
I
it's-
lied to you with bad
I'll give you
hints.
1.5 points.
Yeah, give him a half point for that.
Oh ho ho, Shaker.
What? Shocker has big old gauntlets. He's going ba-bam.
Yeah, well, and I was thinking about that, but then like
Ba-bam.
I don't
That's
know.
the
I
way
forget
Shocker
that
Then
like
I
the
assume.
number
Nate
of
swooped in with his
paragraphs
bad
means-
hint. Cheese, Nate. I
Okay.
remember when you
It
used to
was
never
as
be
useful
wrong.
as
but
your
now-
hint.
Pat has 1.5 points.
I also might have just said Electro has gauntlets, and
Well, that still would have gotten you there, but
Yeah,
yeah.
he's in the box.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the second paragraph was about Electro. So wait, does that box just not describe the other two, or does it have 4 paragraphs?
It
Okay,
has
so
one paragraph that has one sentence for each of the people in it, basically.
yeah.
Okay.
Blank soars into Batal in a blank suit as the blank. Embarking on a crime spree, only the blank can stop.
Why did they just not copy
what
edit
is that blank?
That blank is the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Fuck you. I was gonna say it's got to be spider related, but like you wouldn't say just spider.
The Spider-Man.
The spider can stop. That actually rocks. I thought it was maybe the cop, like the fucking the part of Hot Fuzz where he's like slowly reading a movie slogan, and he's like, "He's the cop that can't be stopped."
All right.
Anyway,
paragraph
Granting.
What?
Instead of granting, and like towards the bottom, it has GRANNG instead of granting.
That's just slang. You can't give him crap for that.
Granting him the ability to alter his size.
Yeah, they just write like they speak. It's fine.
Should I just do them all in like an?
Yes.
No, I will only pay attention to the accent.
One time we asked Vince to do an Australian accent when we were playing Valorant, and it was like the most Chinese accent I've ever heard. It was so weird. It had nothing to do with Australia. Anyway,
I have never once.
This?
Yes, I would.
Okay.
I don't want to be canceled.
Despite growing up as the son of a despite growing up as the son of a millionaire, Blank made sure to challenge himself both mentally and physically, excelling in many avenues of life. Utilizing his ability to absorb and manipulate Blank, he now makes a name for himself, battling for a better age under the name Blank.
Absorb.
Yeah, there's like also maybe this isn't the easiest one. There's just like no clues. I have to blank out nothing.
You don't remember the model that has the rule, I'm the son of a millionaire, but I'm doing things for myself?
The son of a millionaire.
Actually, I don't know. Sorry, that might be misleading. I can't remember if he said child or son.
I don't remember either. It's impossible to know.
My bad.
Despite growing up as the son of a millionaire.
Okay, I was
you
right.
son of a millionaire.
I just don't want to mislead you twice.
I have 1.5 points, so I can afford to go to the second paragraph on this, but I think it might be the dude who blows himself up when he has too much power. He's an ex something. He's a fireman. Bishop.
Is your guess Bishop?
No, I want to do the second paragraph.
Okay.
But I just want to say that in case I'm right.
Okay. Blank may appear to be an advanced robot of some kind, but he is actually a techno-organic life form that has fled his home planet. Although his strange manner of speaking ensures that he isn't the most eloquent member of his team, he is a valuable ally that is always ready to defend his self-friends from any who would endanger them.
Now I just want to guess things that are funny. See, like I think for the comedy I should say this is Rocket and Groot.
You need points.
Don't know.
Yeah, what about the points?
Well, I think part of my thought in going for the comedy as opposed to the points is that I don't know the faintest fucking clue this is.
What?
Outrageous.
I blanked one word, Pat. I blanked just the character's name.
I feel personally disrespected.
Yeah. Why do you
want me to read it again?
Oh. Okay. All right, we're getting there. Is
Patrick's
this
getting there, everyone.
New Mutant Business?
I think that is the title of the box, yeah.
Like a Sunspot and Warlock? Is that a box? I'm going with that.
That is correct.
Okay.
But sorry.
Yay.
No, it's fine. Just step on my toes. You're running the game now.
You were waiting a really long time. What are you waiting for it to be like?
Trying to debate if you were going to actually blank out self-friend or not. Because, like, that's not going to help Pat, but that would help anyone with the passing familiarity of Warlock. So, like...
So no one.
So, yeah, no one.
Half of this podcast loves Warlock.
I
love Warlock too, but
all right.
not.
Pat
I also
Pat-
love Warlock, but I had no idea who self-friends were.
That's how he talks.
Yeah, he's just like a weirdo. It's not like he's just like me.
He calls everyone self-friend. Instead of
people,
like,
people.
hey pal, he'll be like self-friend.
Yeah.
I think he should just say his own name.
He's weird.
Pat Bishop was a good quit. Like if I had heard the first paragraph, I would have guessed Bishop also. Except that I think we did Bishop last time, didn't we?
I was gonna ask Vince. Did we do Bishop last week?
The best part of that
Maybe.
exchange was that Pat got so many things wrong during it. He's like, this is the mutant that like explodes. And I'm like, yeah, he does explode. And he's like, when he gets too much power, I'm like, no, that's not the right one. And he's like, he's a fire guy. And I'm like, yes, Pat's got it. And he's like, Bishop. And I'm like, no, that's wrong.
Well, I'm glad we went on that journey.
All right, Alexander, how many points does Pat have?
He's got 3.5, which is not looking good. But
No, it's fine.
But if we get to
All right.
6, if you just dunk this last one and we're at 6.5, I'll upgrade you to a 7.
Amazing.
All right.
I can retire off that money.
But if you go to 2 and it there becomes 5.5, I'm downgrading you to a 5.
That's fine.
All right, here we go. Final box. Blanks are higher level blanks that lead their blank brethren to hunt blank. In addition to their superior strength, weaponry, and protective hulls, they learn from every encounter with an enemy, storing the data for future use and making it available to other blanks.
Okay.
Paragraph
We
2
gotta
has only one blank in it.
we gotta go for it.
Yeah.
These are the Junior Sentinels.
The Junior Sentinel's final answer?
Yeah, the non-prime ones, the choice
Okay.
Sentinels.
That is wrong because blanks are higher level blanks that lead their blank brethren
Oh.
on the hunt.
It's the big one.
Damn.
I assumed there was like a third tier. Of
I
bad
thought it was gonna be
Sentinel.
the Mark IVs too.
Yeah.
It is a Mark IV, a Mark IV Prime.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Okay. Well, that was.
NT.
Damn. I have 5 points.
You have 5 points.
All right.
Whatever
Well, a rare loss for Back of the Box with Pat. I psyched him out by telling him it was very
more
easy.
Common than winning, but
No, I think let's in the comments. Do you think Pat wins Back of the Box more often than not? Let us know.
Yeah.
on
Write it
Vince's
down there.
YouTube channel.
Yes, on my YouTube channel. Engagement. I need
Yeah.
it, guys.
I do love that bots managed to invent a new scoring system we've never used before.
Thank you. I'm trying to innovate here. Trying to make it
I didn't
more
really
fair
follow,
for
but
someone.
I trust
Well,
him.
he decided he wanted to have even more Valorant trivia. So
Even more Valorant trivia?
it used to be 3 points for paragraph 1, 2 points for paragraph 2, 1 point if he asked for help. And that would get him. And then the Valorant trivia was the difference between like 6 and 7 points because you could never
No.
decide.
We only switched to that last turn or 2 times before that or something. Because I used to
Oh,
have
yeah.
to have multiple Valorant trivias ready.
Yep. Nobody cares about what the next subject is, so we're just gonna keep talking about this.
You got somewhere to be, buddy? Like,
Yeah.
No, I don't.
Well, Vince wants to hurry us up so that we can get back to playing Deadlock. I get it. It's cool.
Oh
Vince wants to
God,
fucking
I can't.
queue.
I hate that
we
game
finally
so much.
played a MOBA for you, Mr.
Yeah.
MOBAs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
And
Mr.
you won't
MOBAs.
play with us.
Yeah. He's not even Mr. MOBAs. He's stunned. He's having like an existential
We
crisis.
broke
He
him.
can't think of what to say. He's like,
Because he
"Damn,
knows
I
it's a
He is
MOBA.
stun
I
locked.
was Mr. MOBAs, but no longer." He's actually stunned. All right, we're moving on. I'm the host now. It's me, Vincent Curkov, and we're going to monsters. They spoiled all the monsters. They said what they were affiliated in. There could be more affiliations. You already know. If you're listening, you saw them. It's Dracula. It's the werewolf. It's the mummy. It's Frankenstein. And most of them are Midnight Suns except for Dracula, who's Kamal. And he has his own fake leadership that nobody cares about because it's stupid.
So before we
what do we
get
think?
into like takes and opinions, I just want to like level
I love
set.
takes.
So I have played 3 games against the monster so far. 2 against Vince, 1 against bots. Bots, how many
Hold on.
games have you played?
I've played 3 as monsters. One was a mirror. One was into you, so into X-Men, and one was into Web Warriors today.
Okay. And Vince, how many monster games have you played?
We don't need to talk about how many games I've played.
Vince, how many monster games have you played?
I have 6 games with the monsters.
Oh,
Okay.
nice.
I thought with you being shamed, I thought you were gonna be like 20. I have
I have 15.
Okay.
No, I'd be
And
way
then,
better at playing Midnight Suns by now.
Pat, how many
Yeah.
of these cards have you read?
All of the character cards.
Hell yeah.
And then I asked bots which of the tactics I cared about, and the answer
And
was
you read
only
that one.
of them. Yeah, I read that one.
Okay.
I read, yeah.
Hideous Monster, yeah.
But hey, look, we've played 3 games on average, so you know.
That's true. We played 3 games per host. There's no question that that's true.
Yeah. And yeah, I have lots of opinions.
Yeah.
Well, then you can go first, Pat. What are your opinions?
That I don't like when they make new rules to put on the DICE website. I would appreciate it if they didn't do that. Because then my friends will bother me about doing that.
Especially when they're models that your friends are excited about.
Yeah,
that's really fucked up.
And when they're like really similar to existing ones, but just different enough that the math is like subtly different.
Yeah.
That's a thing. What else do I feel? I don't know. Dracula's got a lot of words. I'm curious about where that ends up. I think it's crazy that you guys are all into Midnight Suns. This is not a world that I ever thought was going to happen.
I've actually been like almost playing Midnight Suns for a long time because I mean, like Bump is like one of the best things in the game. And
fucking bullshit.
And it's just it's always been
like it's always with bad faction.
That is the type of leadership that I would always want to play. Like I think it's like right in my style. It's just that none of up until now, like there wasn't a critical mass of Midnight Sun affiliated models that actually excited me. Like I know that Blade being garbage is overstated and he's fine. He's not amazing, but he's fine. But there wasn't like I don't know. I mean, Dr. Voodoo's really good, but he wasn't like super exciting for me to play. And I think Immortal Hulk is mid. And even though he is my style of model, like Immortal Hulk's super my style of model, but I just think he's only pretty good, not amazing. And there just wasn't like, their roster was just not exciting to me. Especially when it felt like you had to play Moon Knight, which is a stupid model that I hate and think is bad. But that got a little bit better when Bast, when Panther 3 came out. I again almost played Midnight Suns when he came out. And now I'm just all in because I love the monsters. They're so goofy.
So you may have said this already. All of the non-Dracula monsters are Midnight Suns.
That's correct.
Yes.
Yeah, based on
said in the article.
According to the article, those 3 are Midnight Suns, and Dracula is Cabal.
Okay.
Dracula has a stupid leadership card too, and then they did not say those are the only things. So I know that it's like lore possible that some of them are in Shield as well. And I think it's likely that at least some of them will be in Shield, but I don't know. I don't know if
Commandos twice. They called them Commandos twice. They're just taunting me.
Yeah. Well, and yeah. So I think it's pretty likely that like 2 of the 3 Midnight Sun ones are also Shield, but I think
there's like a 0% chance that any of these are
really. Oh, I don't think so.
I think it's higher than that, but I think it's either gonna be all 3 or nothing. But
it's single digit likelihood.
And that's all. But anyway, the Midnight Suns thing and the Cabal for Dracula are the only ones we know for sure. Maybe they'll be added elsewhere, but we don't know yet. So
okay.
Well, and then as you mentioned, Dracula has his own shitty leadership affiliation that no one's ever gonna play.
Yeah. Okay. So now that we have Pat's takes, I think we can just end the podcast because I agree with everything that Pat said.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thanks. We've been strictly the worst.
Can we talk about my frustrations with the freaking Thralls of Dracula card?
Only if we can also talk about mine afterwards. But yes, go ahead.
Okay, so I was actually pretty excited to just play. Dracula is the one that I'm most excited about. I think Dracula is the coolest one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to play as much Dracula as possible, which is frustrating because I want to play all the monsters, but also as much Dracula as possible. And so I want to play his leadership.
Yeah.
I think it kind of sucks that his leadership is a Hellfire Club. You can play whatever you want. I kind of was hoping that he would just It would just be like the 3 monsters and him would be the faction, and just like maybe you pick up a couple of the, I don't know, other spooky characters or something. I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
care. All right. The leadership ruling nonsense is frustrated the daylights out of me because the panel by play says it does one thing. The rules people have unofficially said in a bunch of places that it does a different thing. And the precedent they're quoting is not an exact match to.
It is.
It is not.
Uh-oh.
Oh boy.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
me and
they're
Pat
saying
can
it's
take our
it's
union
worded.
break while you guys hash this.
So I do think that it's. So my official stance is that it's murky, right? Like my official stance is that it's unclear, and I want an official ruling.
Sure.
I very much see like both how AMG, accidentally said it worked a different way than it actually works.
The panel to plays lie all the time.
Yeah, sure. But that's all we have to really go on as far as official rulings are, because they could be lying about these guys being Midnight Suns. They're probably not.
So
though.
just to be clear for the people listening, because I think probably most people
Okay.
who are listening have seen this, but just in case. So the Vampire Thralls leadership, the way the panel to play said it worked is that a model using that leadership can pay 1 and either bleed, or if the target is already bleeding, heal themselves. That is, heal the model that paid. But
Sort
the way
of. Like the article, even if we're getting picky about wording, the article alludes to the fact that your squad can heal. Right? Like it doesn't even. I'm gonna go find.
It doesn't even explicitly describe how the leadership works. Well, sure, but I think most people on first blush read it that way too. That like you pay 1 power, and the person who paid 1 power is either going to bleed a guy or get healed.
Did they
But
update the article?
Wait, is that not what it does?
no, it either bleeds someone or it heals Dracula, because the if I mean again, remember, this is a superpower that effectively gets like a leadership superpower that effectively gets attached to Dracula. So when it says if the chosen character already has the bleed special condition, this character may remove that's the key part. This character may remove 1 wound from itself instead.
Yeah.
And
Which
I
is
think
like the same wording as the Loki 2 leadership.
And I think it's
that it has an extra clause, but yeah.
Well, okay, sure, but I think if you just read this with fresh eyes and without expecting it to be something else, I think this is pretty unambiguously clear. I would be willing to believe that they wanted it to be the other way and they copy pasted the wrong thing. That's totally something I could see happen. But the rules as written, if there's nothing else around it, and this text was just on Dracula's card, I think there is no question that anybody would read it the other way, except if a box told them to, or like a panel to play said something else, or you were imagining Dracula or imagining vampires who are not Dracula sucking people's blood. Like I think, like I read it wrong too. To be clear, I thought it was the other way until somebody pointed it out. But I'm just saying that, like, I don't think the actual rule text is ambiguous at all. It unambiguously heals Dracula.
So the reason that I think it's somewhat ambiguous is because Loki's statement, or Loki's leadership says, blah blah blah, this character gains 1 power. And this character has always and probably will always mean the character that this rule is printed on, and when you play the card, the ability becomes printed on Dracula.
Right.
So this model removes 1 damage. The problem is if this was printed on Dracula, it would just say this model removes 1 damage. It wouldn't say from itself.
That's not true.
What are you talking about? Loki says this model gains 1 power, not gains 1 power onto itself.
So, but
wait, why does that matter?
So the thing he's calling out is the remove 1 wound from itself.
Yeah, no, I understand. Yeah, or sorry, go ahead.
They're very inconsistent about wording healing, about whether or not. So look at the Mummy. The Mummy can spend a soul to remove 1 wound from itself.
Dracula's heal says that too.
Yes, but if you look at Frankenstein, it just says remove 2 wounds. So like they are inconsistent with how they word healing, and that's annoying for the purpose of stuff like Maverick. But remove 1 wound from itself is more like rule text they use a lot.
Wait. Frankenstein's is a different way because Thralls of Dracula and the Mummy and stuff start by saying this model may. Whereas Frankenstein's monster does not say this model may remove 2. It just says remove 2 from this character.
Anyways, but yes, the remove from
Yeah.
itself is normal
Yeah.
stuff, Vince. You're
So I think that there is like an argument to be made. So like I think this is like 90% to go to the way that like the rules people are saying it to go. Like I absolutely do, especially because they're the people ruling it. Right.
Mhm.
Like they're going to be the ones probably making the decision. So unless this gets errated in the meantime, that's what's going on. I think it needs to. I would like to see it reworded so it's just like clearer. But
Well, sure.
whatever,
I mean,
whatever. Just rule
hope.
it, and whatever. I don't
I
care.
mean, I
don't
guess
care.
I just
Midnight Suns
really
is
disagree that
still
it's
better
here.
than this leadership, and this leadership. The second it was Hellfire is esque. I kind of just want it to be bad, to be honest, for like the health of the game.
Mhm.
Like any leadership that says you can play whatever you want, it just needs to be fucking terrible because like they shouldn't be designing like this.
Yeah, I mean, I feel the same way about it too, and like I had the same reaction. And somebody pointed out to me that like in the comic, I think you did, Nate. The in the comics, like the non Dracula monsters are, I guess, always pitted against Dracula, like they're hunting Dracula or whatever.
Yes.
And so I didn't know that. So maybe this outcome was actually more likely than what I was hoping for. But I was sort of just assuming that that Thralls of Dracula were going to be a monster's leadership, like you said, Vince, and that it was going to be like these four dudes and maybe, I don't know, some other scary guy. I don't know what else it would be.
I'm actually,
but
yeah, I'm pretty glad they didn't do that because I think like starting a new affiliation in this game is kind of difficult, right? Especially one that would have a hard time. Like if you just wanted to make these four monsters as like the Monster Boys affiliation, having a four model affiliation sucks. And figuring out what other models go into here is kind of a pain, right? Like there's not any other obvious picks
well, I mean,
to
it would
put in
be
here
Man
besides
Thing
like
as soon as he comes
random
out.
Midnight Sun. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
But then also just like the fact that three of these monsters get fucking Siege and Bats, which are two of the best tactics cards, I think is like I think not having to print faction tactics cards on top of character tactics cards, just like getting a new affiliation off the ground is a lot of work, right?
Yeah.
And I think you know, the monsters were never going to be more than a detour in the life of Marvel Crisis Protocol. Like, I don't think we're going to see new monster releases every year. And so I think finding them a home.
One could dream, right?
I
Like,
mean, listen, I would love for that to be
it
true.
were.
you guys missed this October and you release these in November. What about next October, though? What's coming out next October? What spooky boys are we getting?
The Mothman. And he's an eighth threat, and he ruins the game. Yay!
Some sweet ghost person.
Yeah, Casper.
So I just think it's like it will be better long term for these to be slotted into an affiliation that might grow alongside them that doesn't require more monsters to be added. It does make things a little awkward for Dracula himself, right? Because like I think he's probably worth a look in Cabal.
Definitely.
But like hot take on Dracula. If you have movement leaderships, this model is fucking busted. And if you don't, this model is good and fair.
Yeah, I'm not even totally convinced. So I guess we're getting into the takes now. I'm not really convinced that he's busted. I definitely think he's really good, and I think that Midnight Suns should be splashing him.
Yes.
But because I guess to be clear, not just because he's a monster. Schmid asked a very reasonable take, which is if he hadn't come out at the same time as all these other monsters, would people even associate him with Midnight Suns? I think so. Probably less than he is being associated with it now, but I think he still makes a lot of sense as a splash in Midnight Suns because the bleed synergy with Blade, and he is just a heavy hitting model who benefits a ton from bump and also synergizes with Werewolf by Night, who I think you're playing a lot. So I think yes, he should be in Midnight Suns, but I don't really. I mean, I think he's fragile to some stuff and not fragile in other matchups in like sort of a way that I'm not totally sure I have a total read on yet. Like fragile for his threat, to be clear. Obviously, he's not like as fragile as a 3 threat or whatever. But just because there are some ways that people can get around his counterattack. Like obviously having range 4 stuff or range 3 stuff if he doesn't have 6 power. And then also just I guess immunity to bleed makes his ability to heal himself a lot more expensive and difficult, and means he has to go a lot earlier.
Way reduces his damage output.
And yeah, also he's way worse at killing stuff that's immune to bleed. But so I guess I'm not really with you that he's busted yet, but I think he's good.
I mean, he definitely feels incredibly strong when he gets to double tap. But like the model is also like has no like without leadership help is like not good at doing that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the issue, is that, and like he is, the difference between him making two attacks and one attacks is so big that I keep wanting Indomitable in my list instead of Sacrifice or Brace, and I just can't decide which is actually the right call. So I'm keeping Sacrifice and Brace, but like him alone makes me want Indomitable. So it's a serious weakness. Like having to move is a serious weakness. But
yeah, I mean, if he could consistently double tap every turn, he would probably be the best 5 threat in the game.
Definitely, yeah.
So like, thank God that he cannot. Right. 7.
That's also his design.
Oh no, yeah, it is. Yeah. 7 die builder with hit 4 excellent conditions is an insane place to start from.
Yeah, his trigger is 90%.
Yes,
to hit a condition, which is wild.
Yeah. No, it's hit.
Oh, what I did was a pun. Why did you have to pun on top of my pun?
Anyway.
But so yeah, and so that's like why movement leadership's like, I'm thinking about putting him in X-Men because storm hopping this idiot is absurd. Right.
Seems silly.
And then even, his main attack's being range 2, but he also has bow, right? So like with 3 power, his range to reach out and touch someone in Midnight Suns is pretty damn high. Right? Yeah. Like hop and then bow you in and then smack you twice is an incredible amount of damage because that's what Dracula does. Right. But yeah, like I don't think he's going to be ruining the game. I have some issues with him, but I don't think he's like taking over the game. But I do think it's so hard to talk about this dude because like, yeah, if he could double tap anything, he'd be busted. But he's really bad at doing that. But he's also kind of good at double tapping you, where the first tap happens on your own turn, right? Like,
that's true. Yeah.
If you try to kill him and fail, and he just counterattacks with the builder, he might have enough power to start with a spender, right? Or maybe that gets him enough power to hop and bow someone else and kill someone else, right? But like, if you do not pay very close attention to that counterattack, like it's the best counterattack in the game. It is the most threatening thing that can happen to you on your own turn in the entire game. And I think that's a new experience to get used to. Like we saw some people having this issue with Thor 2, where his 7 die counterattack is like, it's like a coin flip to do 2 damage. All right, it's very spiky, but it's like a coin flip to do damage. And most of the time you just take your 1 damage or maybe 2 and you move on with your life. Drax Builder is way better than that. It's way more likely to do more than 2 damage. And so if you're not prepared with plans and ways to deal with his counterattack, you will get blown out by him a lot.
Yeah, it's like coin flip to do 4 to you.
Yeah.
Where,
I mean, I
like,
think
it
that the
does 3 with the attack, and then it bleeds you on your activation, so you take another 1. Like,
yeah. I mean, I think that the way to play against him in general, you should never attack him with an attack that's going to leave him within 2, whether that's because it's a range that's higher than 3, or I'm sorry, higher than 2, or because it's something that is extremely likely or guaranteed to like push or throw him or something like that. Like whatever it is, he shouldn't get to his after the attack is resolved step still within 2 of you, unless you're a very tanky model. I think that's like,
and like different factions have different amounts of access to that type of thing.
Yeah, totally.
There's some models he just dunks. Like playing Beast into him is real spooky because you can be outside of his counterattack range and then you fuck up and roll a wild and have to mandatory place into him and get chopped in half.
Yeah, exactly. And like, yeah, I mean, he's really brutal in that way, and yeah, I mean, I don't know. He might end up feeling bad for some people because he's a very binary model in that way. In that there's like, I think there's just a sort of a group of models in the game that must not interact with Dracula.
Yes,
and then there's a group of models that are more or less okay to interact with Dracula, and
There's also some models that like actually like really dunk him. Like, she isn't popular, but Cassandra Nova demolishes Dracula.
Yeah.
Guaranteed walk away gun, and then when he walks back in, you can psychic distraction and walk away.
Yeah.
Ultron is also pretty good into Drac. Ultron 2.
Yes. Yep.
Because you can bow him and he can't bow you.
Right.
You're immune to bleed. You have a range 4 gun, and if he starts, unless he starts base contact with you, you can bow him out of range 3.
Yeah.
Also, like the counterattack being once per turn is kind of relevant too, right? So like the drones are pretty happy to shoot Dracula because if Drac wants to spend a counterattack on that, then you don't have to worry about it on Ultron's activation.
Right. Yeah, that's true too. Yeah, and there's like there's also the funny circumstance where he hits somebody who has a counterattack, and they most of the time probably should not counterattack him because it gives him another action on his turn, which is funny. It's sort of funny to me that counterattacks in this game in general don't say like outside of this model's activation or something, that like he can just counterattack if he wants to while fighting you.
The Midnight Suns mirror match is really goofy.
Yeah, it's very dumb.
The way that works out.
Yeah.
I think this model plays in kind of in a way that's unintuitive. Like you think that I think people read this card and they think he's going to play kind of like Venom, where he'll have like this coat of power that protects him the way that like, be like, I've got 3 power. So like, I actually have like 2 more hit points than it's printed. Alex, you've played a bunch of Dracula in your 3 games.
That's correct.
Have you made a Blood Feast attack yet?
Have I what, sir?
Have you made a Blood Feast attack yet?
Yes, once.
Okay.
And it was not a
Did you regret it instantly?
Oh no, I'm sorry, it was a counterattack and I was trying to live. And no, I didn't regret it, but I was underwhelmed by it, and I think that attack is usually bad. Like I think I healed 1 and it was like, yeah, healing 1 did make me more survivable. There's no question that mathematically is true, but it didn't set the world on fire or anything.
It's not a trap. There are times where it is the correct thing to use, but it is way more situational. Like the Venom plan is, oh, do I have 5 power? I'm going to spend you every time because it is a strict upgrade in numerous ways over his builder, right? Dracula is not in that situation. I guess Dracula's Spender is going to be your counterattack if you have the cash money for it. But his builder versus Blood Feast, they're very close together in what they do, and it's very situational which one's actually the correct one.
Yeah, I think the Blood Feast is pretty infrequently the correct one. I think it's only the correct one if you're hitting something that has low physical defense, like certainly 3, but ideally 2, they're on fire or whatever. And also they have enough HP that a builder won't just kill them. So because like you really like if you're going to do 3 damage with Blood Feast consistently, then that's awesome. You hit them and they're bleeding and you heal 3 HP. That's amazing. But the circumstances where that is true is actually pretty small. So I think.
But I also think it depends. We were talking about this, like what the follow-up is after your counterattack, right? Because and I think some of this you probably won't see Blood Feast because the things that's best things are the things you were talking about that should just never interact with Dracula anyways.
Yeah.
But like if you're just a 5-die attacker, 3 threat, 5 dice attacks, 3/3 across the board, and you punch Dracula once and you're very happy you do like 3 damage. Dracula's 7-die builder is not likely to do 5 damage, right? It's pretty unlikely for him to freshly kill you. So maybe you want to Blood Feast to heal a bunch off, knowing that their follow-up piddly 5-die attack is going to do, it should average like 1.5 damage, right? So there's situations like that where based on what you think is coming next, do you Blood Feast or not? But I do agree that if you're like doubting, you should probably go with the blade. Right, like if you're not sure, the blade is often a safer bet because it will do more damage. The condition either can be bleed or something more relevant, and then Drac having more power later on will always be better. That dude can do a lot with power.
Yeah, that's the main thing is that it's like pretty likely to refund the power you spent to do it, which is pretty
and profit.
Yeah, so
it's coin flip to profit into a Def 3.
Yeah, right, exactly. So it's like, I mean, that's extremely nasty. Which is again why there are models that just shouldn't interact with him, because hitting him might actually just be, doing 2 damage to him and making him stronger. Like, but
Uh, the other thing that's like kind of wild about the Blood Feast attack is because all the conditions are after the effect is resolved. Like you're almost like there's so rarely a situation where you're being hit by a model where your odds of gaining enough hit points that it matters are often similar to your likelihood to just kill the model that you're attacking with the larger attack.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't
Like
agree with
that window is so small,
It's not.
is what it feels like.
It wildly depends on who's punching him.
Yeah, no, obviously like all of this wildly depends, but it just feels like Blood Feast is almost. It's like it's not literally always wrong, but it's close enough that if you have any question in your mind as to what you should do not Blood Feast. Blood Feast is wrong.
I think that's
Yeah, I agree with that.
yeah.
All right, and like I have not made a Blood Feast attack that I have not immediately regretted yet.
Yeah. So okay. I'm trying to think about a way to sum up the thing about Dracula, but I don't really know how to sum it up. He's like a really cool splash who might be good in Cabal too. And I just don't really know how much impact he's going to have on these affiliations necessarily. It's not that I think there's going to be none.
Okay.
I just don't really know what it's going to be, because I think
Okay.
Or sorry, go ahead, Vince.
Where else do you think he's cool? I guess is my question. Because like I think he's cool in Shield with the aggressive leadership.
I think he's cool.
Obviously, he's cool in Midnight Suns. We just talked about that for like an hour.
Yeah. I think he's cool in New Mutants, which might not.
Yeah, I was gonna say New Mutants is really cool. And where he's just like, oh, you attack somebody, surprise, Dracula.
I think all 4 of these models are kind of sick in New Mutants. I think you kind of just slam this box in a New Mutants roster and you'll have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
New Mutants, the spooky monster faction.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess you're just playing,
I'm a mutant.
Yeah.
I am mutated from a bat.
Exactly. I mean,
all right, you can come, buddy.
Yeah. Okay, so where should we go from here for the other 3 Moonsitters?
Okay, I want to talk about the Mummy, because the Mummy is quickly becoming my favorite model in this pack. Like, it was Dracula to start, and it's like the Mummy is slowly overtaking him.
Yeah, no, he's crazy.
Which is kind of wild.
Yeah,
he's so sick, dude.
Rocks so goddamn hard. I cannot believe it. If there's one of these that's in Shield, please let it be this one.
I love sitting in the corner of the map being a little 3-threat mummy and just like doing more damage than every other 3-threat and having to solve a math problem every time I activate. It's awesome.
Okay, so the Mummy is just like, okay, so the people that are complaining about him having only 5 hit points, grow up, he's a 3-threat with damage reduction.
Wait, who's complaining?
Oh, lots of people. I mean,
lots of people think Lots of people think he doesn't have the hit points.
Our Discord people are either not talking about the monsters or they're being like, "Yo, that monster's cool." And you guys, you found. Don't actually tell me where, because I don't want to call anybody out. But like rhetorically, where are you finding these people who are whining about the Mummy? I've literally never seen this.
Other Discords.
Are you sure they're not complaining about the film series from the early 2000s?
No, those movies are perfect.
I mean,
those movies are great.
I mean, I thought so too, but you can't account for taste.
Maybe the Tom Cruise movie.
Oh, I forgot about that one. I never saw
The
it.
Dark Universe. That's the name of my my list is Universal Studios' The Dark Universe.
If you're looking for stuff to accompany painting these guys, can I recommend Hotel Transylvania? All of these characters are in it. You get to watch them goof around. It's great. Have a great time.
The Venture Brothers also very good for this.
Yes. Yep.
But okay, so sorry, Vince, keep talking about the Mummy.
Okay, so the Mummy's Souls mechanic rules so hard.
Yeah,
like
it goes crazy.
Okay. So often Hela can feel like shackled to the Souls mechanic because of how vulnerable she is on defense. Or on like her flip side, I mean. Where she's like, if I flip, or like if I get dazed and I'm not currently holding 3 souls, I'm in maximum danger. Because you don't collect souls when you're dazed.
And
the
like,
Mummy
when that happens
never
to
feels
her,
that
she
way.
doesn't feel like a 4 threat, right? Like the Mummy is almost close to feeling okay if you took away his whole soul mechanic. Obviously, he wouldn't be good, but he feels closer to okay without his souls than like if you took the soul mechanic off of Hela's card, she'd probably be like the worst character in the game.
But also, like, the souls don't impact, like, whether or not he has souls does not impact his activation when he flips. It impacts, like,
Well, it doesn't impact his survivability.
His survivability, I guess is a good point. Like, he doesn't need to be flipped and be holding a bunch of souls to not be instantly dead. So, and also, God, this guy just has so many effing cool lines of play, and God, bump is so much better when you have a gun than when you don't have a gun.
And a really good gun for a 3-threat.
A
Like if you
really
have souls, his spender is crazy for a 3-threat. It's range 4, it's mystic, so it gets around a lot of stuff. It's 6 dice base, and then it has count skulls, sort of, as long as you have souls. So like, and it fuels a second one too. Like when you do it, you probably get a soul, and you can turn that soul into power, so you can do another.
Also, you don't do it. It's the last step of the dice modifying thing. So you don't do it if it doesn't give you a soul.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
Yeah, to talk about that because that was weird. Or like,
I also think that was weird. I'm with you, Pat. I do think it was weird.
Like, why? So what happens when they print another thing with that timing?
They have recalibration matrix.
Oh, recal. Okay.
Yeah, and it's the same deal.
So it's just
attacker before defender.
Yeah, like this. Man, it's in the timing chart, right? This is all established. Yeah, okay. It's fine, right? You just do it because, like, if you remember, like the modified dice step, right, is like you modify your own. Your defender modifies defenders. Attacker modifies defenders. Defender modifies attackers. After those 4 things, there's a 5th thing, which is the end of the modified dice step. And the attacker goes first, can decide if they want to play recal. Then the defender goes and can decide if they want to play recal. Then you're done.
Okay. I mean, I'm not an English major, but I don't think those can all be the end of the step.
I mean,
there's just a step that's the end of the step.
Yeah, there's a step that's the end of the step, which is like it's just a different step then. So fuck you.
Yeah, it's not a good name. I agree with that.
So I also like this example. So I didn't know recal was that way, which is maybe unsurprising given me.
We didn't tell you to read that card.
Yeah, you didn't tell me to
yeah. When you asked, we didn't say recal.
Nothing can go after recal other than another recal, and this now.
The mummy.
So, like, his character is obviously stronger because of that timing.
Yeah,
like, it's just literally better than not having the timing.
Yeah.
But also, I don't think it would matter to like when you decide to play this model.
Not when you decide to play this model, but I think it is a meaningful difference in his strength, just because it's on attacking. So he gets to choose if it said like during modified step, he would reroll. You see the reroll. You see if they decide to modify, like if they have their own reroll or whatever. Where you always get to go after that stuff, except for recal. So
I guess I think the thing.
I think the reason it doesn't. Sorry.
Oh,
go ahead, Pat.
No, I think the thing that's hard about that to me is that like it's not a thing. One, it's not a thing that the dice calculator does well. So it's sort of just like vibes. And then it makes me wonder how they got here, I guess. Like whenever I see things with weird timings. Yeah.
I know how. I want to know if Vincent I came to the same conclusion.
I can tell you the reason why they got here.
Okay.
It's because if it said during, when the fuck do you do this?
What? No, that's
so
not
like no. So every other thing. So it says like, you can reroll. So like, things that say like, reroll your defender's dice during the modified dice step. Right? It's clear that it happens in the step where you're modifying your own dice.
So this has also been ruled on, and if they don't tell you a specific timing window for modifying dice, you assume it's the modified dice step, and then you assume it's your window in the modified dice step. So if this didn't specify a timing step, you would do it when attacker rerolls would happen.
No, you would not. It doesn't do that.
Yeah, I think what Vince is asking is like,
why can't I do it after everything? It's still during the modified dice step, but it's not modifying dice.
I'll go. There's rulings about this that like if it doesn't specify timing step, you assume there's defaults. You assume the reason they did this.
What is
during your modified dice step anyway? I think the only question would be whether and they could just rule on this, or maybe this is also clear. But I think if it said during the modified dice step, the only question would be could you could you transform a skull into a wild when you re-rolled into the skull? Like you
Yes.
started with no skulls. And then
That's
you
the
re-rolled.
reason they did this, is
Yeah.
because they, I mean, there's a bunch of wording things they should fix, and they should stop using the reality gem wording. But if this happened during the modified dice step, and I have 2 skulls, I can use this power. One of those skulls is a wild. I can re-roll that away, turn it into a hit. Now my second skull becomes a wild. Right? Like all those reality gem shenanigans would work with this. By putting it at the
That's so
end,
funny.
they cut off a lot of, like, the only
No,
shenanigan is
they
then recal.
don't. It still works.
No, it doesn't.
Oh, because you can't pick up the other skull. Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
I guess
'cause
you'd
your
have to have
skulls
an
are
ability that
unlocked.
modified skulls. So, like, if you're in Web Warriors, you could do that. But like,
No, because this
Yeah.
would happen afterwards.
so if you're in Web Warriors, you can mod skulls. I guess you're right. Like, this doesn't pseudo unlock skulls. is what
No,
I'm trying
it
to
doesn't.
say.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, exactly.
They put it here as a safety valve. Now, they could have worded this power differently to not need that safety valve, and that's a whole can of worms we can unpack. But that's why they did it.
Okay,
I think they're
interesting.
both valid reasons. Because the other thing is that, like, because like it's not clear when the step is, you can kind of trigger it whenever. Like if it just said during, you'd be like, well, because I think you can still, things that say during the modified dice step, you can re-roll dice. You can pay for those after the window where you're allowed to re-roll, but like you just no longer can re-roll the dice. You can still pay, and it just doesn't do anything,
Maybe. I'd
right?
have to look
Whereas
into-
this like would still do things because it's not modifying dice, but it's happening in the modified dice step.
all right, whatever. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, you're right. But this ability, okay. So like
Yes.
his souls mechanic just fucking slaps so goddamn hard.
Yes.
And it fucking rules, dude. Okay. So I had a moment happen to me early playing these dudes where I wasn't like super convinced the mummy was like bananas like I am now.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's one of those things where it's like I have priority, I have no good early activation, and we're playing Infinity. And so the guy's like, okay, he just like puts a range 4 gun within range 4 of the mummy. And it's like, great, right? Like you can shoot me once with your soul gun because you're going to have 3 power next turn, not enough to double tap me. Right? And then I'm going to get wrecked. And then I'm going to get to double tap you. So like you can shoot me once and back up. And like if you want to do that, that's fine. But if that's your opening activation, that sucks. The freaking souls mechanic lets you discard the souls for power. So I got to shoot him with I got to start on 3 power, shoot him, get a soul, shoot him again. And I killed him and I got another soul.
And, yeah. And it's like, it's so sick and flexible that ability, Living Death, that's the discarding souls for either removing a special condition, removing an HP, or gaining a power. First of all, you could do different things with each soul. Like you could discard 3 souls with it to get one of each of those, or whatever, or 2 conditions and 1 power, or whatever. And also you can do it as many times at your activation as you want.
It not being once per turn, but being able to be multiple is incredible. Like
so
Root
you can do it to set up
barely
your
affects this
attacks.
guy.
Yeah,
And
so that was the
then-
thing. We had a game where I stunned, rooted, slowed, incinerated his mummy, who had 3 souls, and had also taken some damage. And he was trying to figure this out, and he's like, wait, I can spend 1 power for root, then spend all 3 of my souls to clear the other conditions I care about. Because it was like, get rid of slow, get rid of stun.
Yeah.
So you
get
can
rid of
walk onto the
Incinerate, I
point
think.
and then heal 1 and shake or something. I don't know. But like I was like, oh, he's gonna have to pay like 4 power to use all of his souls. And it's like, no. He just pays 1 power, stays rooted, continues to be rooted, and gets everything he wants anyways.
Yeah. And you also, and he's a Midnight Sun, and also in Midnight Suns that means his soul can be a bump too. Like he can generate a soul on 0 power and have a bump. Like it's just sick. It's just so dope. And so I've so I'm 3 games in, which is obviously not very much, but like I think every game I have realized after the fact that I could have done something he did in a more efficient manner. Like I can't remember what the first one was, but there was one thing. In the second one, it's the thing that Nate just said. And then in the third one, as Nate pointed out to me after the game, I could have turned a soul into a power so that he was on 1 power and he ended up leaving Gwen on 1 with a suspender, and I realized I could, or Nate realized and told me I could have discarded a soul for a power so that I had bats available so that I could just kill her. But
Like he
anyway,
was maxed out on souls anyways. He was using
Yeah.
the spender, so he's gonna get another soul, right?
Right.
And so like, sure, if he rolls a skull, he can use a soul and get a skull that way. But you
Yeah.
might as well turn a soul into a power to have bats online just
Yeah,
in
it's-
case, because you're so likely to get a soul back out of this attack anyways.
yeah, and it's only inefficient if I happen to roll 3 skulls. Then I would have wanted all 3 captured
Oh,
souls. But
no.
otherwise,
Yeah.
whatever.
You
So,
should never end an activation with him on 3 souls. There should always be something you could have done with them.
Yeah, exactly. So it's
Like,
just
you have
so
to be like full health on 10 power and have no conditions on you to camp 3 souls.
Yeah, and I did have one activation where he he started on 3 souls and 1 power, and so because of that, he was able because of the 3 souls, even though he had 1 power, he could. Let me make sure I did this properly. Yeah, 1 power. Yeah, he could bump, walk, spender, and pick up an extract off of starting with 1 power. Like, I don't know. It's just really cool. It's just a really fun system to play with, and I think
Man,
he's
I
just an
didn't realize
extremely
this
value
shit
3.
wasn't once per turn.
Yeah,
it's-
that being
so,
once
like-
per turn, I keep the second that I found out it could do multiple things, I assumed it was once per turn.
Yeah, no,
And
it's
it's not.
Yeah,
This
you
dude
can
could spend
do it
6
to,
souls in one activation, and that's not like
It's
crazy difficult for him to do.
I mean, yeah,
He's got to kill 2
well,
things, but
he's got to kill 2 things. Yeah,
he can
right.
spend
that's
7
true.
actually.
7?
oh yeah,
8. He can spend 8
What?
actually.
how?
How 8?
So he can start on 3
Yeah, spend
and those 3 on whatever.
Yeah, it doesn't
Right?
matter.
Claim soul twice, killing both of those models.
Yeah, that's 4.
Right? And then he can
That's 5,
or you're right, it's only 7.
Yeah, that's 4 plus 3.
And
Or oh wait, no,
No.
he could do 7. You're right. He would just be so you
he
start on
can-
3,
he
spend
can
3.
min-
do a
siege for
spender.
another
Oh,
to kill
siege.
someone.
Okay.
Siege to kill someone.
Gets
Wait,
to
wait,
8.
no,
and
that's
get a
more.
soul.
That's more.
That's 8.
Yeah.
Oh no, wait,
Because-
he can do way more because he
Yeah,
can get
it's-
souls. He can
Exactly.
spend empty.
He can get a maximum of 2 souls per spender because
Yeah, so that's
No, but
because it
he
generates
gets them off anytime anybody dies. So,
so
like
the other siege attacks could get him more.
the other
souls.
siege attacks can also give him souls.
I was trying
No.
to be like semi-reasonable.
No, that's
It's
fine.
so many souls. This dude's this bottle rocks, dude. This bottle
Yeah.
rocks so hard.
If you think the Mummy is bad, you haven't played the Mummy enough.
Yeah, definitely. And then also he's just random. I mean, I not lore wise randomly. I understand why a mummy would be this, but randomly in terms of his power budget, immune to 3 conditions, and also has
And he's like
damage reduction.
pseudo immune to every condition. Like this guy can't be staggered if he has a soul.
Yeah,
Right? And
that's
if this
true.
model is staggered, you should spend your turn trying to kill something so that he's not staggered.
Yeah, exactly. And then he has damage reduction, and he has like the easiest to activate heal in the game that's not healing factor. Like it's all awesome.
He's
Also, he has a size 3
4.
push. Why does he have a size 3 push on his builder?
And it's a
It-
size 3 push, which is 80%. Because
I
if
was
you have
just
a
about to
soul-
do the math.
if
on-
you
yeah,
have
he
a
has
soul, it's 80% for the size 3 push on a builder. So
That's like Gambit. Like this is
guy
like,
this guy is like I think this guy's a little bit pushed, but it's fine. He's a 3 threat. Like,
I mean, I do think he's like so bump is his only action compression.
yeah,
and
but he's a 3
and
threat.
He doesn't even literally have bump. He's just in the bump affiliation.
yeah,
But
I don't think he's pushed. I think that's going to. As much as I like the Mummy, I think he's very cool and interesting, and has like his soul mechanic does feel really fun because kind of
Mhm.
like you said, unlike with Hella, where it feels like like you said, you're very constrained by what you can do with your souls at a certain point in the game. Like they're just kind of locked into keeping her alive, and you have no choices. Whereas this model has infinity choices on how to spend souls, and they all feel fun. But like he's still a small base medium mover 3 threat with 5 health and a 5 die attack.
yeah, I don't think he's pushed, but I do think that like what you were saying about you really hope that he's in shield. Like he's definitely good enough that anybody who has him affiliated is going to be extremely happy about it. And people
Yes.
are also like hoping that because he's like a wizard or whatever, he would be in convocation, and that would also be amazing.
He would
Like,
transform
would-
convocation.
yeah, convocation
Yeah.
would love to have this guy. So like
Yeah, any
He's
faction
just-
in the game
yeah.
would love to have him.
Yeah, he's just awesome. And
no one's gonna splash him, I don't think. I can't think of a faction that would splash this.
yeah, there would have to be something really gimmicky with like interacting with the mechanics, which maybe works. I haven't thought about it.
The like claw list might do that.
Oh, like Weapon X?
No, the character claw.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
playing.
all the
That's
claw
like,
boys all the time. Yeah.
sorry, I was very specific with what I said.
Does he get a soul for grunts? I don't actually.
Yes, he does.
I always forget whether grunts are characters.
So like
or whatever
playing
means,
like I think I like him in Criminal Syndicate, being like killing the grunts, getting in rerolls.
They just put whoever into criminals these days.
Dude, I hope all of the freaking. I hope they're all criminals.
They should not put them in criminals, but then they should release the Scooby-Doo gang, and when the Scooby-Doo gang is released, then the monsters should be put in criminals, because then their roles have changed. And they're like stealing somebody's estate.
Zoink, Scoob! They're doing cool crimes.
Exactly.
Spooky crimes.
Okay, so we've gushed about the Mummy a bunch.
Yeah.
He's an extremely value 3 threat.
Okay.
And yeah.
So real quick before we move on.
Yeah.
Is this the best designed 3 since Mysterio?
I don't
I
don't know how to answer that question.
Okay.
I don't know who came before or after Mysterio, but I really like the Mummy.
I'll say it's the most Vince designed 3 since Mysterio.
Okay, fine.
Like, he's exactly what you want in a model, and we're all very happy for you.
What about Shocker?
No.
You mean Shocker?
He just liked, if Shocker had any other name and Vince didn't just get to do the
Shocker,
he would not care about that model.
Yeah, fair enough.
But you don't understand. Sometimes he give you Stagger.
Listen, I love French Shocker. I'm not trying to discourage you. I think it's incredible, and I laugh every time. But that's the only reason you care about that model.
I'd have found something else. All right, moving on.
Yeah.
Do you want to?
Frankenstein or the bad one?
Let's do the bad one.
All right.
It's not bad.
Take a break.
Werewolf by Night is not bad.
Well, Werewolf is the worst of the 4.
Yes. I think,
which I agree is not bad, but he's the worst of the 4.
Yes.
I think Frankenstein's the worst of the 4, but
well, we'll fight about it.
Well, I don't know that I have a strong feeling about it. I just but okay. So why is Werewolf the worst of the 4? Because he's got all this stuff, and it's good.
He's a 5 threat that rolls 6 dice attacks, and if they don't go well, he doesn't do anything.
He does.
Like, he's very close to being in
Ghost
your
Rider.
Marvel slot jail that you hate so much, but just more expensive, so he gets an extra die.
I mean, yeah, I think that's true. I think you just need to like.
He does like as much damage as Frank, but has a counterattack.
And the Howl. Like, I mean, I think the Howl.
The Howl sucks.
The Howl does not suck. What are you talking about?
This is like the worst version of this effect.
Well, I wouldn't go that far, but it's worse than Rogues. The people comparing it to Rogues are insane. It is much worse.
I don't think it's much worse. It is much worse on like turn 1 for sure. When people have like 1 or 0 power, there's no question that Rogues is better. Absolutely. But like, what'd you say, Vince?
On turn any.
No, it's worse. I don't think that's true.
It's only not worse if they have 10 power, and then it's still probably worse.
I don't think that's true because it's not once per turn. Like I think that his like when he has like 6 power and he can do it.
What are you talking
times,
about? It is
amazing.
once a character. Okay, a character can only be affected by once per turn. So you can. You're gonna dump his power on doing this to like 4 characters.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
I think that's a worse use of his power than his spender and pouncing.
Yes.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't do it over pouncing, but I would do like 2 and a pounce. Absolutely, no question.
I've yet to see a werewolf on 7 power, but okay.
I bet my werewolf had 7 power against you.
Okay. So we can talk about like my frustrations with this character in that, so this character is definitely a 5 threat. Like, it's not like one of those where I'm like, oh, he's a 4.5. No, like he's adequately costed. He is worth his points. He is just in that realm of character, much like Ghost Rider can be when you're not playing him in like Defenders or something, where you're just like, if my 2 attacks that I make don't go well, I don't do a lot. And like that's backed up by having like the counterattack. Mm-hmm. But like this character, he turns damage into power okay, but it's like unintuitively, it's like indirect, like because some of it happens on the counterattack turn. His spender does have a guaranteed throw, which is amazing, and then sometimes has really good conditions. And by sometimes, I mean 90% of the time has
90%.
Hex and Bleed.
Yeah.
But it is only one more die, and it's lower range.
Yeah, the lower range part does suck. I mean, that's the sad part about a spender for sure.
So I've only spendered with him twice. It would have been 4 times, except I missed the wilds to try to jump in.
Yeah, right. I mean,
And so I had
the
to
worst
pounce
part
in
of
instead.
him is the leap trigger being on the wild. It's that part is really rough.
Yeah,
about
if
him,
this
for
character
sure.
just placed every time he attacked, this character would be like unbelievably good.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely agree with that.
And I do like he is good. Like I think he should be in the roster. You know, we call him the bad
Yeah,
one, but
he's
like
in
he
my
is good.
roster.
His damage is good. Howl is a good superpower. Pounce is a
fine.
good superpower. Sure. But like I don't know. I've seen some people thinking he's like the best thing in here, and I really don't. Like in practice, I think it's his life can be a lot rougher because like the counterattack is good, but it's significantly less good of a counterattack than what Dracula's doing. Right.
That's definitely true.
The howl is fine. I mean, you're gonna howl most games, and it's good. But like the doing damage to people when they're out of power part of rogues is such a big deal. As is the 5th die instead of 4 dice. Both of those things have been noticeable differences between his power drain and hers.
I mean, but he has the conditions.
They don't make up the difference to me. They're too unreliable. Like his howl is really good at doing something, right? Like the way his dice work, you roll those 4 dice, something's gonna happen, which is good, right? It's you know, paying 2 power to do nothing would suck. But it's so inconsistent and hard to plan around what's actually going to happen. That sometimes it can be, you know, sometimes you just like sap a power in a slow on a model that's stuck in already and is fine being where it is. That's not the great, you know, it's not the best of 2 power, you know, especially when it does feel like he needs to pounce pretty often. He needs to bump a good amount of times, and his spender is good. So, like, I don't know, Howl's fine. I wouldn't change anything about Howl, but I do think it plays worse than it reads.
It's a whole dice less than rogues.
Yeah.
It is a whole dice.
It is longer range, which can sometimes matter for sure.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, it just doesn't. I don't know. I think the ability is fine. I guess I would rather have it than not have it, but like, I do not consider it a core part of this character's kit.
Huh. I really do, I guess. I mean, I think, like, to me, this is a character that you want. So I think the worst part about him really is his 2 Mystic defense. Because I think that limits some matchups that he can be in a way that it wouldn't if it was even 3.
Makes it pretty funny in the mirror.
The difference between 2 and 3 defense dice doesn't matter. You should not be making rostering decisions being like, oh, if he had 3 Mystic instead of 2, everything would be fine. It doesn't matter. Defense dice aren't real.
Well, that's how
I think
But-
it's. So I think when you get down to 1 defense dice, it matters a lot. So like, I would not play, like if it was Convocation or the Midnight Sun's Mirror and it was demons, I would not play this guy.
Okay.
But if it's not demons, I don't actually have I don't have a huge problem playing the dude.
Well,
I can get behind that, I guess.
anyway, I guess I think that he is. The reason I think that he's good is because I think that he is an extremely strong place to hold an extract because he has healing factor, he has a counterattack, he has pretty good defenses with 7 HP, and he turns power that is dealt to him into a lot of different options. He's very mobile if he has extra power. He hits harder if he can spender. He can turn power into howls and then leave without spending actions. All of those things I think are really good. And I think I haven't really thought about any of these models as splashes, so maybe he is. If he was like the by far the least likely person to be splashed, that might be true. I have no idea. But in Midnight Suns, it seems to me that affiliation doesn't really have a lot of great options of just people that you can put an extract on and decide how the fight is going to go simply by doing that, other than just the baseline truth that where the extract is decides how the fight goes. So Werewolf grabbing
I
an
agree with that
extract.
part. Yeah, for sure.
What'd you say? Sorry.
I agree with that part for sure. Like that,
Yeah.
like he's probably Midnight Sun's best extract holder. Like he punishes you for attacking him. He's hard to kill.
Yeah.
I think this model is actually maybe the best instant recovery character.
Yeah, I mean, I still don't really know how often I can fitness the recovery, but it is in my 10 now. And I think it's true that he might be the best just because his health pool is the highest healing factor one, right? Like literally the number
It's tied
7.
with Wolverine one on the healthy
Is it
side.
7 on the front?
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
7-6.
Oh,
But it's like that
well, anyway,
mixed
yeah.
with the counterattack.
Right, right.
Like attacking this guy on like 3 health
Mhm.
and like leaving him on 1 can be like a gigantic blowout. Like you get attacked, you give
Yeah.
him a free place, he plays the card and heals 2, he activates, double attacks you, kills you, heals 2. Like
Yeah.
Mhm.
like the blowout potential is huge. And that's like you're looking for your tactics cards to have those big swings, and that's like a place where instant recovery, I feel like, can actually carry the weight that you want a tactics cards to carry.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I do also think it's worth, emphasizing. I mean, I know you guys get this, but just emphasize his pounce is like the extra good kind of pounce because he's size 3. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's like Thor's. Thor's goes longer because Thor's crazy, but also 1 threat more. So, but like he has the superior
It's I
kind
mean,
of
it's worse than
pounce.
goblins, but yeah.
Right. Um, so I guess it feels to me like he fills a role in Midnight Suns that they kind
Like,
of need,
yes.
Yes. I agree.
and also just being a kind of all around good 5 threat that's affiliated feels good too because he
Yeah.
also benefits. I mean, this gets into talking like pretending that he always has 10 power territories, but he uses bats extremely well because it lets you like every
That's
time
in Siege. Yeah.
every
Yeah,
time you
bats and
have bats
siege.
available when he attacks, that means you if you capital N need the place, you can do it, right? But
Mhm.
so I think those things are good. And I guess, well, I mean, we'll get into Frankenstein, but the reason I think that this guy's better than Frankenstein is because I feel like there are more places where this guy is definitely going to contribute than there are for Frankenstein. But maybe I'm
think
wrong.
I mean, well, yeah. I think that might be true, but I think being a 5 instead of a 4 is a pretty big deal in
That's true.
comparing
Yeah.
when they're going to get played, especially if you're some kind of weirdo who's playing Midnight Suns without Dracula. Then I think werewolf stocks go up a little bit.
True.
But I think that like if the rest of your list is otherwise affiliated, like you're not worried about hitting affiliation, I think in almost all situations I would play Dracula over werewolf.
Yeah, I mean, there's the question in general is that like we didn't talk about this when we were talking about Dracula, but like Dracula is an extremely good splash of Midnight Suns. I think we all think that, but so is Gwenum, and like it's pretty hard to play both. You need
Mhm.
Wong to play both at 18, otherwise you just can't. And even at 19 and 20, you're a little restricted in how you want to do that if you're going to play both Gwenum and Dracula. And so everything, if you don't have Wong or don't want to play Wong, then everything below 19, you're deciding between one of those 2 splashes.
Mhm.
And I am at the list building stage where I don't know if the answer is just always Dracula or it's always Gwenum or it's one or the other.
I think
but
it's like often Dracula, but not always, right? It's like
Yeah.
I think you want this whole package. Like I think your list should have werewolf and Frankenstein and Gwenum and Dracula,
right.
and then you can just toggle between those based on
Yeah.
matchups.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's sort of
think
where I'm at right now too. But
I think also if you pretend where like so like Werewolf's the only 5 threat that's Midnight Suns affiliated that I'm playing at least. So pretend that he's the best 5 threat, and then if you
Same, I
pretend
think. Yeah.
and if you pretend that Frankenstein's the best 4 threat, at least for the situation, I think it's very situational which 4 threat is the strongest in Midnight Suns. I think I would almost always rather have Frankenstein and Dracula than Werewolf and Gwenum.
Frankenstein, Dracula, the werewolf, and Gwenum. Yeah, you might be
And I don't
right.
know if
I mean,
that says a lot about whether Gwen, like the comparison to the 4 threats or the 5 threats, or whether you want your splash to
Yeah.
be a higher threat. But like, there's lots of stuff going on there.
Yeah, and of course it
But-
also ignores voodoo and stuff. But yeah, I
Yeah.
mean it's tough too because like because I'm also these 3 games I'm like intentionally playing as many monsters as I can fit, which I know like I think the first the mirror I played against Vince, I actually think that was the best list for that setup. But the other two that I played, I'm pretty sure the optimal list would have had fewer monsters. Like the one that I played against Nate. You were saying, Nate, that Wong and Werewolf by Night should have been Frankenstein and uh Frankenstein and Bast. And
Mhm.
I didn't say this to you because I didn't think of it until later, but I think it actually should have been Gwenum and Bast. But and then like and then the game I just played against Webbs, probably Frankenstein should have been Voodoo. I mean, I don't think that like Frankenstein was awful, but I think against Webbs it kind of makes sense to have a
Wait.
steal.
Oh no, you could. Yeah, no mind. Yep.
Yeah, it would have been affiliated because it
Yeah.
it would have been Blade, Mummy, Bast, and then Gwenum and Dracula. But anyway, so like I don't really know, like in real life, quote unquote, by which I mean we're in a tournament and we're trying our hardest. We would not be playing quite this many monsters every game, I think, by default. So it's sort of hard to tell exactly how often these things get played. But okay, anyway, let's go on to Frankenstein.
Yeah. Why do you hate Frankenstein?
I don't hate Frankenstein. I agree with what Vince said about how all four of these models are good. And I think that that's like that's exciting because I really wanted to play these guys. And I'm glad I don't feel, at least currently, don't feel like taking any of them is like shooting myself in the foot. Because I think they're all sick. The reason I think Frankenstein is the weakest of the four is just because he has power problems. And like he has an extremely good tactics card for solving that, sort of, but he's still, you get to do that once or twice if you have sacrifice, and then you other than that you're just kind of hoping your opponent hits him to give him power. And he is okay, so his maximum output is weird because he he wants to be as hurt as possible that is not dazed. Like he really wants to get hit, but not that much. And that's kind of like, that's a hard type of model to pilot, right? That's like, it's complicated and difficult and can get dunked by dice in a way.
So yeah, I firmly believe Frankenstein is the hardest model in this box to play.
Yes, I think I'm with you there. I've made the most mistakes operating Frankenstein.
Because like he kind of has, we used to talk and always still do about how like Venom is a very difficult model to play because his power economy is so tight. He has like 6 different things to spend power on, and they're all excellent, right?
Mm-hmm.
Frankenstein has that problem, but more so, where everything he spends power on is good as hell, but he only has a gainer. He's Venom as a builder, right? But like, all right, thick skull, pretty good. It's probably, I actually think it's my least favorite use of his power, but
Agreed.
Sometimes just the chance to stagger is worth it.
Incredible though.
It feels like a trap, but if it goes off, it's amazing. But it's like, every time I look at his card, it's like tempting me. It's like, yes, do thick skull, and it's like, I don't know, man, that's a 4-die physical defense, and it's like, do it, it's gonna hit.
His spender is great. How great it is depends on how much damage you've taken, right? If he's at full health, the spender is not a good use of his power. You should find something else to spend his power on.
Mm-hmm.
If he's on 1 health, it's one of the best spenders in the game, where you're paying 4 power for 12 dice and a throw.
Yeah.
That's omnidirectional, as I learned earlier today, which was very funny. To watch
Everything
Frank.
he does is omnidirectional.
Yeah, both his push and his throw are omnidirectional, which is amazing. It's like so good.
Charge is obviously a great use of power, right? That one I think is easy to deploy. When he needs to charge, and being medium base, medium move means the charge goes pretty damn far.
Yeah,
he is not a slow model. His terrain throw is really good. Size 4 throw medium for 3 power, excellent.
Mm-hmm.
And then the heal is good. I don't think it's like great, right? But it's at least, you're not losing power on it theoretically, right? Because 2 power for 2 health, and you take more damage, you get 2 power back, coming out even. I do think that one can be tricky to use though, because like the spender and the charge and the terrain throw are where I'm looking at first. And sometimes the healing will be important.
You're almost always sacrificing damage when you use it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So you have to decide, is Frankenstein living more important, or is him doing more damage more important? And so I think all these decisions are going to be fucking hard, and this model is going to be hard as hell to play. But man, all the numbers on this card are great. Like his defenses and health pool are both great. His movement speed is great. His card is great. He's got the only good card in the entire box. All the power budget went to the monsters themselves. The tactics cards are all butt except his, which is good.
Yeah,
it's fine.
It's really good.
It's
and I also it is good.
The worst
and
version of this effect.
No, it's not.
Yes,
I don't think
No,
that's
it's
true
not.
either. The other thing is that like, so okay, we have to tell the viewers this thing that we puzzled through before the podcast, which maybe everybody else understood. I just knocked over my mic.
Oh, I can't wait to edit this. I'm sorry. Thank you so much, Alex.
Sorry.
Thank you. I love this. Thank you.
I can't wait to hear what that audio sounds like. This is going to be the first podcast that I listen to. Oh yeah, so maybe everybody else understood this. Everybody else meaning the listeners, but I didn't until we talked it through. But like, so Hideous Monster, his tactics card, the Hideous for Hire. What did you call it, Pat? Frankenstein for fun? Yeah, Frankenstein
yeah.
F for F.
Frankenstein for fun is pretty good. I like it. I think I like that more than Monsters for Hire.
Yeah,
you could add it into a sentence. You could be like, why did you hit Frankenstein for fun? Anyway, so it resolves in a push. If the enemy character suffers damage in this way, push it S towards Frankenstein's monster. But Vince asked if the person could be pushed through Frankenstein. And the answer to that is no, because it's a different character that played this card. But because it's a different character that played this card, that means that the model can be pushed through the other model. The character that was the original target of this attack is the pusher, and therefore they can be pushed through that model, but not through Frankenstein, which is a wrinkle that I did not understand until we had this conversation just before the podcast. So I'm very excited to do something, I don't know, goofy with that someday.
I've been trying to come up with a contrived situation.
I have no idea what's it going to do, but it's going to be exciting.
Relevant, but yeah, it's going to be really fucking cool when you pull it off.
Yeah.
I had to go back and check that it said towards Frankenstein and not towards this model. But
right. Yeah. No, it's not like Dracula's leadership. It's very clear about who it's going towards.
Well, especially because this model is probably the model that played the card.
Yeah,
exactly. Which would mean the model that was attacked, not the model that ended up getting attacked.
So it is awkward in that you still have to push it towards Frankenstein. But if
it's
the model
it's
played
towards
the card, yeah,
it's so goofy. But anyway, so I think. Yeah, that card is really good. I do think Frankenstein is good, but...
So, okay, why do you think this is the worst of that effect?
Okay, so the versions of this effect are Heroes for Hire.
Yes.
Whatever the Red Guardian one is called.
Comrade's Keeper.
Comrade's Keeper, excellent. And Prince's Protection.
And Lethal Protector.
Isn't there Lethal Protector, excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. This is the only one that doesn't punish the opponent.
Incorrect.
It's just a redirect. You cannot push them out of range of the character, and you cannot kill them with it.
Why not?
You absolutely can push them out of range of the character. What do
you have to be placed within one of the character that was attacked. Okay,
this is not a visual podcast, so I can't do this. But you can absolutely put Frankenstein, like if they're close enough to the original target, and Frankenstein is lateral, you will definitely have a way to push them away from that model.
Okay, you have to push them outside of range 2, and you can't push them through Frankenstein.
Yeah, it seems hard to me.
Maybe that.
It seems incredibly like it might literally. I might be wrong. It might literally exist, but in no of my 6 games, I think 4 of which I have Frankenstein in the list. I was never able to do anything with the push.
That's fine. I agree with that point. You said it can't kill them, which is a lie. You have lied to our audience.
Okay, you're right.
The card does damage.
It does damage. You're right. It does damage. Right.
Thank you.
I tagged that on there because I forgot that Lethal Protector was a card in this format when I picked it. Whereas the other ones all like throw you away or push you away. Yeah. Lethal Protector doesn't. So like I think it's a Lethal Protector level strength of this card.
So I think you are drastically underselling the difference in who pays for these. The victim paying is so much better than Venom or Name or Red Guardian having to pay for the card.
Especially because this card is also how you, if you're going to, this is how you solve Frankenstein's power problems.
I don't think it solves Frankenstein's power problem. I think Frankenstein still just has to pick between being tanky and doing damage. And I also kind of think he would prefer to always do damage than to be like. I don't think he ever actually wants to play this card. Like, I think you will play it because I think you would rather, like, I understand that Sacrifice is like a restricted card, but like this card is worse than Sacrifice. It just is.
But you don't choose. You take both.
Yeah,
I understand you take both.
And you're
I understand that
underselling-
if you could take another Sacrifice, you would take Sacrifice. But I think there's like tons of situations where like Heroes for Hire and Combat Keeper is so much better than Sacrifice.
You can
And this
also
card
play
is-
Sacrifice this and Heroes for Hire. And
No, I understand I understand that you can stack them. That you're not picking between the two.
Yeah.
But like, I have been disappointed with this card like almost every time I've played it.
Okay, so I agree Heroes for Hire is the better card, and that's not the argument we're having here,
Mhm.
right? But like the fact that Frank doesn't pay for it matters in like so many different ways, right? For one, it makes it way harder to play around, right? The number of times you can like just not have to think about Prince's Protection or Comrade's Keeper because they are on one power and you're killing someone else is huge, right? Like especially like early in the game on turn 2, if Red Guardian picked up a thing, Comrade's Keeper isn't online until he activates. There's no way to play around this card on someone's power economy unless you've like judged them, which doesn't happen, right? Also, I do think it helps with Frank's power economy in a way because it saves him from having to spend on charge, which matters,
exactly.
right? Like being
about the
able to
positioning?
teleport him a very long distance so that he can spend his power on damage and then maybe still heal it off because he didn't have to pay for charge is a big deal and does help him do what he wants to be doing.
Yeah, I think like so one of the things that I don't like about Frankenstein, which is not unique to him, but it happens for a lot of charge for basically almost every charge character, is I really don't in general like playing charge characters that if they pick something up on turn 1 don't have charge online turn 2. So like that's many charge characters and like some get around it
It's
perfectly.
like every shield model ever. It's
Right.
like,
Yeah. I
doesn't want to
really
pick
don't
anything up
like
on
playing
turn
those
1.
types of models. And like, you know, I mean, it's such a big difference that even people play a tactics card with Zemo to avoid it, basically, or to change how he interacts with it, right? And so, and I think that's one of Frankenstein's biggest weaknesses is that whether he bumps turn 1 or picks something up turn 1, he's probably not going to have charge online turn 2. And he does have the mitigating factor of bump, of course, which is really great, but it's still not as far as charge, obviously. But this card is like a way to give him another charge, like out of his activation. It's like
That someone else pays for.
Yeah, it's like it's a charge that actually is online turn 2, sort of. Like that's like the most Curkovian way to describe this card.
Yeah.
But like I think it's better than not having it, and it's really you use this card to service Frankenstein while hopefully saving a guy.
Again, my argument isn't that like the card is terrible. I think the card is like, I think the card is okay. Right? Because like the situation you're talking about is a situation where like Frankenstein has picked up the card on turn 1, and you're gonna play this on turn 2 to protect a model.
Yeah.
Which is moving an attack that was going on a model to an attack that is now going on your extract carrier that is scoring you victory points and putting them up with the person being attacked, ostensibly in more danger than he was. Because like this card's not going to rescue him, like, because then they would just be attacking him.
Well, I think you do it when you can activate him immediately afterwards. Was sort of what I was picturing. And like, I guess
I think the other. Sorry.
Go. No, that's basically it. Go ahead.
I think the other issue is that like I think when you play this card, there's suddenly now an issue of do I activate Frankenstein? Do I activate the character I protected?
That's true.
Yeah, and like maybe I've just been spiked every time that I've played this card. Because granted, the last time I played this card, I had what was it? I like Deadpool lived. He dealt like 5 damage to Frankenstein and killed him, and then activated first the next turn, and I Frankenstein's monster to save somebody on low health, and he just killed Frankenstein anyway. So I've been blown out with it a couple times, so like that is absolutely coloring my opinion of the card. But like I think you're absolutely right. Like there are times where I'm like, okay, I want Frankenstein to be able to charge on turn 2, even though he's holding an extract, because there's a spot where I think like he can go do damage and contribute and still be safe. And like it's possible that this card can like facilitate that, but it is also like very risky to like switch an attack off of a character that doesn't have an extract onto a character that does.
Why doesn't the first guy have an extract? Why can't two people have extracts
guess
and them
that's
help
more
each
what
other
I'm
out?
Okay, then it's similarly like I think there's
You're
also
splitting their
like
damage, so both your dudes keep holding your stuff.
Well,
Like,
I
come on.
also
I'm-
think
I'm
there's
not
like a
saying
risk
you-
of like putting two characters low versus like
Yeah, I mean, I'm
just
not
letting
saying
one
you
die.
play
Yeah,
it
that's
turn
sacrifice.
two
That's every time you
single
play
time,
sacrifice.
But yeah, I mean, it's like, like sometimes people are heroes for hire and you just one shot the Luke Cage and you're like, cool, thanks, man. I mean, it happens occasionally, but like,
I mean, this character has as much it like is as resilient as Luke Cage is when he plays Hero for Hire.
But also,
Except that he could then get except you can't play it on the first attack. Like,
yeah, true.
but I also think that like it's important. The other thing I love about this card too is that like it makes his spender way more like it can turn on the spender way earlier than you would think, right? Because like him taking the damage and gaining power and placing next to you and maybe doing a point or two of damage on the way in, and it's like, oh cool, now I have a 10 die spender that might throw you away, is like way more than what you normally see a Luke Cage or a Namor do after using their defensive card, right? Like it does so much for Frank.
So the other thing I haven't enacted this yet. So this is just theory. And we were talking earlier about the pull from the card from Hideous Monster. And I think you guys are probably right that geometrically it's either impossible or like so unlikely that it will never happen in a real game that you could actually pull whoever's attacking out of the attack. But the thing that I do think is actually good is like if you're playing this on turn 2 or at a point where lines haven't fully clashed yet, positioning Frankenstein behind your model and then pulling them through that model closer to your side of the field such that they weren't in range. Before they were only in range of the thing they were hitting, but now they're in range of the thing they're hitting, Frankenstein, and maybe like Dracula who can bump or Blade who can bump or something like that. And I think that is actually even if they have another action is pretty scary for them.
Yeah,
and
it's
if
Heroes for
they
Hire
don't
plus deception.
and if they
Well,
don't have an
you
action.
also have to
okay.
you
hang
also
on
have to
now.
successfully roll dice.
Not quite.
Like the push does not happen super often.
Yeah, well, yeah.
The
I mean,
push is also like not that likely to happen at all.
I wish it was. I wish the push was just separate. Like I wish the push was like guaranteed. That would be even better.
Yeah, if the push was guaranteed, I'd be singing a different tune for sure.
But like, I do think that use case is potentially actually kind of game defining occasionally. Like not every time you do this it won't be, but occasionally you will actually win the initial engagement pretty hard specifically because of that push. So especially now that we know it can go through the original target. Like if you couldn't do that I would not be as sure about that. But I think that positional idea is actually pretty interesting. So
I think part of my issue is also that like I very rarely feel comfortable playing this card unless like Frank is pretty close to clean.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure.
And then like I feel like when I play this card, either Frank dies or I miss the trigger.
Well,
like I have yet to push somebody
surely
with this
that
card.
That's fine.
Surely that will come out in the wash. Like I know you've played
like
6 games,
I'm sure
which
it will, but
which is maybe more than anybody's played of these characters by double. Like not just me and Nate, but anybody in the world. But but like I think in the wash it will usually do like 1 or 2 damage and then trigger. Like I think that I would assume that's most attacks are going to do that to Frank. So
well, it's
4 fizz.
Like unless you end on 4 damage, you're more likely. What is 3? 3 is coin flip, right? No, 3 is on crit wild. 3 on crit wild is coin flip.
What are you asking? A 5-die attack?
The likelihood of this to trigger if Frank has 3 damage
I'm
on
pulling
him.
it up. Hold on.
Because I know on 4 damage it's like 69 to trigger.
Yeah, on 3 dice it's 58. On 2 dice it's 43.
Okay.
Oh, it's higher on 2 dice than I thought.
And it's 25 on 1.
It's crit wild, right?
Yeah.
20. 2 sides of an 8-sided, it's 25. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. 1 and 4.
So like
Yeah,
you
all right.
never hitting the push, I do think is a fluke and not.
Well, it has to do with like the window. It's like when I have too many hit points, I just die.
yeah.
It's like when it goes up over the thing,
I get it,
die and
yeah.
I don't get an opportunity to push. And then if it's too low, I like miss the die roll.
I mean, you shouldn't plan around the push, but the fact that you said you haven't seen the push yet happen, I do think is a fluke of statistics at this point in time.
I think it's also a little bit of like how people play into Frank. Like Frank is a Groot style character, right? Where people know like don't start attacking Frank unless you can put him down.
Okay.
Man, I just think
So-
that's true about character.
Uh
I mean, sorry, I don't. We should.
okay, so like maybe it's more that like my Frank rarely takes chip damage from
Yeah,
anything.
yeah, I get what you're saying.
That's
I
fine.
guess he's.
It doesn't impact my assessment of this card, I don't think.
Okay, and it's just like I think I have 4 games with him. I definitely didn't play it in my first game. He died before I could play it because Frank ended up being the main target.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think I played it and I died. I played it and I died, and I played it and didn't push.
Can you?
You did not play it in our game, right?
No, Frank wasn't in our game. I don't think.
Yeah, it was. Because you kept
Was he?
staggering Hulk.
Sad.
Oh yeah. I
That
think it
sounds
was
like
just
trouble.
like Frank was following Hulk around and like
Yeah, I think I just kept tossing stuff far enough away that you couldn't.
yeah, like I just like never had an opportunity to play the card.
Can
Yeah, I
you?
don't remember.
I don't know.
You can't heroes for hire and then sacrifice again, right? Like the
You
same.
Sure
attack.
could.
You
You
could. Why don't more
can.
people do that?
Why would you?
Well, because it guarantees that you get the throw.
No, it doesn't.
No, it
Why
does
not?
not. It prevents you from getting the throw.
Why? Oh, because the
So-
attack isn't resolved if if
Yeah.
it changes targets.
Well, so it's not resolved against the person. Like,
Sorry, you guys don't have to explain this to me. I'll trust you. I'm just pretty.
yeah, well, it's the
surprised.
same reason why, like, a martial prowess character, right? It's just like, oh, I'm going to use martial prowess and then sack the attack over there.
Yeah,
I'm
take 2
still
damage.
alive. You take 2 damage. That's not how it works.
Yeah. Well, I don't understand why that's not true, but nobody does it, so it must not be allowed. But it just seems like if it says the placed character becomes the target of the attack, like I'm reading from Heroes for Hire,
Yeah.
that sounds like it's still the same attack, just with
It
a new
is the same
target.
attack.
So after it's
But,
resolved,
like, so my understanding, I have to look, it's a weird one. And it is one of those things where, like, you kind of have to take their word for it a bit.
sure, yeah,
But like, so with the stuff like martial prowess, I know is that like that superpower is on Proxima and it triggers after the attack is resolved, right? Or like the damage, right? You pay up front to get your extra dice, and the damage is after the attack is resolved. But you were attacking someone else, so Proxima, you don't get to Proxima's step 14B or whatever step it ends up being. You're someone else's.
So then why can Gwenum ever counterattack?
Because Gwenum is worded differently.
After an attack targeting another allied character is resolved.
Yeah, she doesn't care which character is targeted.
Oh, so okay. So
It's the same reason that like Venom, if you like, let's say you attack Venom,
yeah,
and I bodyguard the attack onto Steve, Venom can't attack you.
Yeah.
Even though he was targeted by an attack and the attack is not resolved.
man. Well, I don't think that's borne out by the literal rules on the cards, but
It
if
might
that's,
not
if
be.
that's how
You might
they've
be right.
ruled, then that's fine.
It's-
Like I'm
yeah,
not going
it's
to
not-
tell them to resolve their ruling. I don't think the words in English say that, but that's
They
I'm sure
don't.
the argument is just escaping us at the moment, and it's being yelled at by like 1 million podcast listeners.
I'm sure you're right.
Right, Pat? We have 1 million listeners, right?
Yeah,
And they
definitely.
all
I really
definitely
gotta-
know this rule.
I really got to follow up with Raycon. We've got 1 million now.
Oh, the forms are down. I can't search them.
It's okay. It's okay. I don't want to derail this too much.
Too
Okay.
late.
Frank.
Well, so any closing Franken thoughts?
I love that he's immune to shock.
It's
Me
very
too.
cute.
Me too.
When we got the first 2 monsters, I was like really hoping that every single monster would have a counterattack because the first 2 monsters we had
Yeah, me
had
too,
counterattacks.
me too.
Thank God they didn't do that. What a
No,
horrible
that would have been so
mistake
cool.
that
I don't
would be.
care.
No, it would have fucking ruined the game.
Someone's salty.
Uh-huh.
I thought that like it would have been cool if like Frankenstein had like Electro's counter attack thing where it like
Mhm.
take 1 and shock.
Yeah.
And I pitched this to a couple people and they're like, why the heck would Frankenstein interact with shock whatsoever? And get wrecked, haters.
Yeah.
Frank immune to shock because he's born of electricity. Get out of here.
You sure told them.
Also, I also realized that like the reason that I was pitching that was because that's what the League of Legends Frankenstein character does.
There you go.
And that I had stolen it, and that I have no original ideas because I'm a fraud.
Agreed.
Sorry,
Oh,
we're
also
seeing
his
back into my
throw
podcast character.
His throw is really good. Is this the only affiliated size 4 throw? Oh no, it's not because of Immortal Hulk, right? But it's certainly the lowest threat affiliated size 4 throw.
Also, every number on this character's card is like one higher than you'd think it'd be. You'd be like, okay, he's a 4 threat with charge. How many dice does he roll on his attack? 6. You're like, damn it.
Well,
Okay, well, he pushes
number is
characters
real
any
jealous.
direction. What size does he push? 4. You're like, oh, that seems high. He can also throw characters with a suspender. What size does he throw? 4. And you're like, yeah, he also throws terrain. What size? 4. And you're like, oh my god.
He also throws characters medium, which is
Yeah,
kind of
which is
like
pretty
the
sick.
wolf can't even figure that out, but Frankenstein can.
He's jacked. Look at him. He's fucking huge. Yeah. And this is like not about any of these particular models, but Dracula, Werewolf by Night, and Frankenstein's monster all being size 3 is pretty nice for the faction, I think. Like
So
they're
fucking good for them, yeah.
the amount of like the percentage of the threat value that you're putting on the field that is immune to size 2 pushes is pretty nasty. So I like that a
Yeah,
lot. I
get
like
wrecked,
that feeling.
X-Men. Get out of here.
It's playing the faction that's great at moving size 2s and horrible at moving stuff bigger. It's
Yeah.
very noticeable.
Yeah. And it really feels good against impact webbing.
I'm X-Men. I
being-
haven't had a release in 2 months. I'm cranky.
I kept in
I
my Web
didn't-
Warriors game. I kept being like, "Why isn't he impact webbing me?"
We
And then
didn't
I'm
get
like,
any
'Cause he
releases
can't."
this month, Vince.
It's in 2 months.
Okay. When do you think
Whatever.
Professor
You're
X
just cranky
came
because you
out?
haven't gotten a release
It
in
is
the
kinda
last like
fucked up
72 hours.
that Warlock
I mean,
and
it is kind of
Sunspot are
messed
not
up that they
X-Men.
released like 3 mutants and none of them are in your faction.
Yeah.
But
No.
also, I hate your faction and I hate mutant players. And get out of here.
Because that's frustrating. Because like I think both Sunspot and Warlock would be pretty interesting in X-Men. It's bizarre to me that especially Sunspot, but whatever.
Spot.
Flash him.
I don't know. At some point, we should talk about New Mutants. I want New Mutants to be good, but I can't be convinced that they are.
Same.
I mean, that leadership is bananas.
Yeah,
it's so
everything
good.
I'm
else
sure
they
somebody
have
will
is
figure
bad.
something out.
Yeah, it's a shame they have none characters.
None characters and like half a card.
What are you talking about? They just got cabled this episode.
Yes, you did just discover that they have cable. Yeah, I mean they have cable and they have Sunspot, and I'm a
Cable's like the dude who
Sunspot
cares about the leadership the least too. Is the problem? Like he really doesn't
cable.
need
That-
the mobility.
if they had any of the mutant bodyguard characters, I think they'd be pretty good.
They really feel to me like release Winter Guard, where they
Mhm.
have like they're so honestly they feel like fucking Winter Guard now. Honestly, like they have a lot of really cool ideas and a lot of tricky stuff, and they have nothing to tie it all together and make it like a competitive, interesting list. Really,
Also, it's wild to me that there's no limitation on that leadership other than the power cost. I was playing into New Mutants, which I almost lost with Midnight Suns. I
Mhm.
got very lucky.
Mhm.
But essentially, I took 3 like hops with Werewolf using bats and Siege to try
Yeah.
to get across the table, and Ultron fucking followed me.
Yep. It is not
That's
once
funny.
per turn.
yeah, that's wild.
And
Yeah, I
I
mean,
was
that's
like,
cool,
I was
that's
like,
cool.
oh, this isn't once per turn. As I travel across the map,
Yeah, the leadership is incredible. I have nothing bad to
It's
say
incredible.
about how good the leadership is. But it's just like they have Survive the Night, which is a perfectly okay tactics card.
Yeah.
And they have
yeah.
characters who don't synergize with the leadership well. You know, like I said,
Mm-hmm.
if Colossus was in here, it'd be such a different story, but he's
Yeah.
not. So like
Honey Badger isn't even Honey Badger would synergize with this. Like,
yeah,
I
not having the bodyguard characters is like.
well, it's just like
pretty
why
rough.
does Shadowcat care about this leadership? Why does Warlock care about this leadership? Right? Like
yeah,
a bunch of the characters you can pick from. It's like Sunspot is the only one with a little bit of synergy because he gets a flare token every time he does it, which is very
I
funny.
mean, Warlock synergizes with it. Like, you attack me a bunch, I don't die, I bring a friend who has bodyguard that I've splashed from another faction, and now I'm up
Yeah.
here and I'm alive and I get to heal. Like, I think
yeah. That's
that
the other thing.
that
That,
is
like,
literally synergy.
But
The
he's
other-
not durable enough. Like
he's only got to live through one, and then he pulls Steve Rogers or whatever bodyguard character forward, or like he pulls Luke Cage forward, and he's like, now everything's being bodyguarded, and you spiked 4 damage onto me, and I'm going to destroy all the terrain you were going to throw, and I'm going to heal myself.
But even that feels so. The problem with that plan, even though I think it is the correct plan, is the fact that the bodyguard and taunter people have to spend power to use the leadership.
Yeah. So like Luke has to be on like 3.
Yes.
Yeah,
which is not trivial.
And also, like, because of all this, because of their shitty affiliation list and the fact that they just didn't come out with very many new characters, they have to splash, right? If they're going to even try to win games, they have to get some good splashes. And I'm not saying they're never going to win a game, of course they will. But like, to consistently win, they're going to need a bunch of splashes. And their other interesting tactics card is Tomorrow's Soldiers, which only works for affiliated models. Like, I think
I don't even know what that card does.
It's not
good.
Mean,
I think it would be really good if they had a good affiliation list. Like,
it gets better the better the affiliation list is.
Or actually, like, I think that card would be great if it just said, if the last clause just said all non-dazed allied characters gain 2 power. Like, I think that would be a really good card, but it just doesn't. So they once again,
is
like,
this
everything
a photo
about this
of
is
all
like
characters that aren't released. Oh no, wait, Sunspot's in the back there.
Yeah.
The
other ones though, yes.
I thought the person in the middle was She-Hulk, but
what?
I don't
what?
Get wrecked, Warpath.
Oh, is he like red or something? Like, what is?
Oh,
I'm colorblind. He looks green to me. Like, literally, his skin looks green.
So he does have brown. He is a Native American. He has brown skin, and his suit is black and red.
I know who Warpath is. Oh wait, sorry. Say that again.
The suit is black and red. So like the points coming down to the chest, like the little Wolverine things, are red.
I thought, this art and me being colorblind, he looks like a big, somewhat busty green lady. So
hell yeah.
I thought it was She-Hulk.
That's high praise.
And I was like, I don't think She-Hulk's a mutant, but I don't know what I'm talking about. So
She-Hulk's pretty good in this faction.
I mean, I guess.
Like her second best faction. So like She-Hulk's weaknesses are that she doesn't have action compression. Boom. Pay 1 power, teleport across the fucking map and double tap some nerd with 2 7s.
Yeah, that's true.
Give him slow and stagger. Good night, ladies. Also, she has bodyguard, and then she can like be like, oh, you attack me, now I teleport this person over there or whatever.
Look,
like I think it's
this faction is going to be great on November 1st when it turns out that Dracula and the Mummy are new mutants. But until then,
affiliated Dracula would be pretty great.
Yeah,
affiliated Drac would be incredible here. Like, I think Drac's pretty good here.
Yeah, I think
there are plenty of really great ideas for splashes, none of which will make it a good affiliation, in my opinion. But
you just play those characters in an affiliation that has good models in it.
At some point, and this might be multiple years from now, but at some point they are going to get several releases that are really good, and then this leadership is going to look fucking insane. But right now, it's whatever. They're shackled to a bunch of mediocre models.
Man, I wish Emma could play Headmistress in New Mutants. Just make that an X-Men / New Mutants card.
No.
Yeah, I don't know. Do we have anything else? Well, I guess I wanted to finish this up by saying, so we've played a bunch of games, but we don't really know. None of us has played in a tournament or anything, and this isn't a ton of games yet. But what do you think that like the monster releases meaningfully change Midnight Sun's power level, and by how much?
I think significantly. I think they don't crack the top tier though. I think they're good. And I think like somebody like they give you opportunities to outplay the meta lists, but I still worry about them into some. I haven't played them into any of the like the monstrous things in the meta.
Yeah,
I haven't played them into like 4-2, especially at 15. Like I have a plan, but it also involves playing none of the shit I'm excited about playing.
Yeah, I have not played them into Asgard yet, or Cabal, or Hellfire Club.
Yeah, any of the Thanos builds or anything like that.
Yeah, or any Thanos thing. I haven't even played them into Invaders yet. I know I want to do that soon. But anyway,
good luck finding an Invaders player.
Yeah, they're all playing monsters.
So I agree and disagree with Vince in that. So obviously, I think the monsters are a big boost for Midnight Sun. Like, yeah, they're 4 good models. I mean, it's good stuff to have, right? I think people were underrating Midnight Suns beforehand. I know so my buddy Andrew, we talked about here playing Wakanda a lot, has been playing Midnight Suns in the monsters waiting room, but had wanted to figure out learn Blade, learn how to play this stuff, be ready to go to drop in the monsters. And he has built a pretty sick Midnight Suns list, especially with the release of Gwenom. We didn't really, we mentioned her briefly, but she is incredible in Midnight Suns.
Yeah,
and is a big
crazy.
boost to that faction.
She's literally why I think that sometimes you don't play Dracula. Like, it's only because of Gwenom, is because of how the math works out. But
and when we got the monster spoilers, I was talking about it a little bit, and he's like, man, these all look good, but I actually really like the list I have now, and it's not immediately clear to me who gets cut for the monsters, right? And then the next day, Kev was like, I'm bored of playing Defenders. I need something new to do. And I just shot him Andrew's list, pre-Monsters Midnight Suns, and he's played, I think he has played in an event on Saturday or something, but he's already played a bunch of game with it and loves it. Right. Yeah. So I think Midnight Suns were better than anyone gave them credit for beforehand because the leadership is insane. Right. I know we just talked a whole bunch about how good the New Mutants leadership is. This leadership, I think, is still better. Movement is the strongest thing in this game. You get on every character and it's wholly within your control and it's in your activation, which is the best time to have extra movement. The leadership is insane. Siege of Darkness is insane. Bats is a good card. Those 3 things alone, I think, make Midnight Suns better than people gave them credit for. I think, the lack of safe grabs makes the leadership better. And I also think it makes Midnight Suns better, right? The lack of, the fact that we're not at peak Guardians anymore, which was a faction that was really good at shooting the hell out of a lot of Midnight Suns monsters and models, is good for them. So I do think it's a shot in the arm, but I think they were better than they got credit for. And I do think this could legitimately make them top tier. I haven't seen how they stack up into the Boogeymen either, right? And I don't think they don't immediately jump out to me as something stronger than Thor 2, right? I don't think we're in the danger of Dracula being the next Thor. But it's hard for me to see why they wouldn't be top tier when they have great cards, great models, great leadership. The only weakness is that Blade has some bad matchups.
Yeah. And I think, to what you're saying, Schmid and Kohler, who are both very good players who play a ton online and stuff, they've also been playing Midnight Suns a lot. And the one thing that everybody agrees on is that Gwenom is crazy. That Gwenom is a faction defining splash. And I think that's true. And also, so one of the things that I don't have in my list right now, because I'm trying to force the monsters all the time, is I don't have a safe grab. I don't have Bill or Hela or whatever else could be a bump related safe grab, and I clearly need one of those. One of the first changes I'm going to make after playing another couple games is I'm going to put in one of those, and I just don't know who's going to get cut yet. But I think, I don't really know how strong they are, but they seem good enough to win games against other top tier factions and being piloted by very good players. So I just need to figure out my crises, and I need to put a safe grab in there, and then I think I'm going to feel pretty comfortable with this list after a few more games.
Okay. A couple of quick things, just jumping off what you said. There are 2 real things that jumped out at me when I started playing Midnight Suns. One is how Blade doesn't actually suck, and he's actually totally passable and fine.
It depends on his matchups, but yeah.
Yeah, it depends a lot. But I don't know, I kind of expected him to be kind of dumpster town, but when he gets bleed on somebody, he kills that model.
Yeah, his spender is great.
Yeah. And then 2 is how no one knows how to play against bump. So many people will be like, I stand just outside of 2 of Dracula. Yeah. And I'd be like, okay, cool, you're dead.
Okay. Yeah. So what's your fucking sick counterplay to bump? How do you play around bump?
I think when you're walking, when your model has a bunch of attack range.
Okay.
right? That like you shouldn't stand just outs. Like I think people need to kind of get like a spatial reasoning around bump that
Well,
just like the meta does
I
that most players just don't have.
so one of the things I think, so it's sort of the thing that I think
Including
the monsters are going to change about Midnight Suns, if it is anything, is actually just their range binds with bump, because there there wasn't anything that hits this hard this consistently with bump before, except for Immortal Hulk. Like
like
I think the only thing
voodoo
close
kind
is
of.
Gwenum, because she double taps and she gets reroll all, right? But like, so on his activation, uh Dracula's builder is quotation marks range 3. Like a bump with Dracula, because he's a medium base, and then range 2 is exactly equivalent to range 3 at 6 inches. And like the werewolf bumping is an inch further than range 4. Like if you're if you're less than an inch over range 4 from werewolf, he can bump and attack you. And so I think I mean, I don't know that there is like counterplay other than just having longer
yeah,
range
I mean
stuff for
that's
bump. I mean, that's the
I
point of
more
bump.
just mean that like I've seen players like go stand places they think they're safe and immediately be surprised by bump.
Well, yeah, I mean, I definitely
I
think that's
mean,
true. I mean,
sure, but I think like just saying like, oh, just play around this thing is being really dismissive of how fucked the situation. Okay, I had a pyro standing not even a full one in front of my home extremis, and werewolf can walk, bump, and punch him, pounce on top of him.
yeah.
Just play around bump. Like
Well, he can
the
miss the wild.
distances on him and Dracula,
Yeah,
especially when Dracula can
don't
pay
put
for
your
bow.
fucking pyro in such a dangerous goddamn position, all right?
Yeah.
Like you've played against Thanos. Thanos can abduct him from a full like 2 behind that.
Okay, well, I
Like
wasn't
don't
playing
get
into
your ass
Thanos in this
abducted.
game. And the thing is, too, is like if Dracula has power for bow, it's so much hard. Like, how far does that bow reach? Like 9 inches.
Like
Just don't stand within 9
It's
inches of
yeah, it's 9
Dracula.
inches.
it's the
It's
same
over
as
range 4. It's the
it's the
same as
same
the
thing
werewolf thing.
as werewolf.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that's but
So
anyway,
I'm
that's the
just
point.
like,
That's the point exactly.
your
Is that
advice
3 of these
here.
models are medium bases,
No,
which is
I
huge.
think it's more my comment that I feel like Midnight Suns are in a spot of like dark horse nature where people are just not used to bump. And like, yeah, maybe it's not like maybe a year from now, after like Midnight Suns have been a top tier faction and we're wrong, people will be like, yeah, you just can't play around bump.
You can't play around bump. I will say that now. Somebody put timestamp this, right? This is just like, oh, just play around the minors. The place isn't that bad. You'll be fine. No, the leadership is
It wasn't
fucked.
that bad.
Okay, no, we're not doing that. You're just baiting people now. You can't like on some mod, like on Blade, you can play around bump, sure, right? Like making him have to throw his shurikens more will help until he hits the pursuit and bleed and comes in and spenners you and kills you anyways. But yeah, make him roll those dice, and if he fails, you'll feel good about it. But like,
Yeah.
bump is fucked, man. You can't just play around it the way you can play around even the storm leadership. You don't have those options because it just happens. It is
It's
one power. They will have a power. They will get to bump.
Guys, do I drop Wong, Iron Fist, or Black Panther Chosen of Bast for my safe grab?
Wong, it's
I think
100%.
it's
That's the
prob-
last
I
thing I
think
want to talk about.
Yeah,
Wong doesn't belong in this faction.
I
You
agree.
think so, man?
Yeah.
But he's an affiliated too.
So
He is an affiliated too, and he's almost always dead weight here. Like
God,
I love defenders. I've been playing a bunch of defenders leading up to this release. I've like to get a better understanding of portals and all that stuff, especially because I like lost my 2 last events to it.
Yeah, you're still playing. We got it. I know how it goes.
And I think Wong's a very strong model. I'm also like, as playing Shield, I'm very frustrated by healing.
Yeah.
I think Wong's a good model. Like I'm not debating that.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
do not think he can carry his weight in Midnight Suns. I think he really struggles.
You're probably right.
So like my
I
list does
agree.
not have Wong in it, and I have regretted every moment I've put him on the table, and I have been so happy without him. It's just cut
Right.
Wong for Hella, or if you want to be less fun, cut it for Bill. And Bill's probably
Or if I want to be more fun, cut him for Namor.
I guess. I mean, I think if you're gonna
the
play
extra
Namor,
cost is really rough.
Yeah, it is a real pain. I just really like I don't know if Kohler or Schmidt came up with it, but they both told me about it. But like I really like this thing where they're playing Skrulls, and with Namor you can grab the opponent's Skrulls on first activation.
Oh yeah.
And just leave. Like you can safe grab the opponent's Skrull with
Mhm.
Namor. But yeah. But I don't know if like
You get something to say, Pat?
I'm coming up with a theory for our next podcast, and all of this is playing into it.
uh-oh. Which is what?
Yeah, I think this
Care to
is
give us a
becoming
preview?
no, I think this is becoming a game of questions. And like I don't think that's like I think the more that happens, the more it becomes like sharp, pointy questions that you have to understand the game, and there's just a fucking lot of them. And like that's a thing.
Some of them get nerfed though. Like a
I was
lot.
gonna
Went
say
away
they
with
just
this
took away a
rotation.
bunch of questions. They just removed a bunch of questions that you don't have to think about.
Well, I mean, if we
anymore.
have a rotating suite of questions, like it's still an investment to keep up with.
I mean,
Yes.
most games are.
You're doing.
Hey,
Pat hates brain exercise. He's here for leg day.
Speaking of questions, Pat, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So
I was hoping we would dodge this.
So okay, so on Friday I took the day off because a friend of mine was free in a way that she isn't usually, and we got on our boat.
Oh,
So
okay.
so my friend Will, not Will Brink, the guy that you know, the guy that you all know, Will, a different Will.
Wow, way to DDoS, or way to freaking.
He's an international celebrity.
Oh yeah, okay, that's a good point. You're right.
Other Will, not an international celebrity, incognito. He has a 3-person life raft that he registered with the Chicago Port Authority, and that we strapped an electric motor to last summer and drove around on the lake and on the river and stuff, and like listened to music and stopped at places and got fried fish, and it was great. It was hilarious. Construction workers would see us go by and sing "Row, row, row your boat." It was battery powered. It was awesome. We had a great time every time we did that. At the end of last summer, another of our idiot friends sank the boat. So
wait, how?
I don't know. It went over a rock or something, and like a particularly shallow part of the Chicago River, and it fucking sank. And it was the saddest anyone's ever been. So this year, our friend Peach, because it was a lot of investment, and anonymous Will now has 2 children, and he's a busy man. Our friend Peach, she decided she was going to do the same thing, and Will sent her all the materials for what he bought: the motor, the boat, all this stuff. She bought all of it, and then we rented all. We got it all together on Friday, and we were going to go out on the lake again. And when we arrived to pick up Peach, we opened up the box, and everything was correct, except somehow, even though she was working from the exact same internet links as Will, she had bought a gas motor. And so we were like, oh no, we need gas. So I was given the task of going to get gas. I got the little thing that's like the mixing bottle between the oil and the gas, right? And you know, it's like a plastic bottle, and it has 2 containers, and they have lines, and they show like the ratio, because it's supposed to be 25-1. So there's like a ratio that's like 5 over here of gas means this little number 5 is oil, and then they slowly mix together, and then you pour them in. And I got gas out of the garage of a boat marina, and I got to practice my Spanish, which was great. And then I bought oil at an AutoZone, and then yeah, we had a great day on the water. And at one point we couldn't get the motor to start, and Peach started freaking out and started rowing to shore, but we were fine. But anyway, when I got this mixing bottle, I had 2 questions. One, why doesn't anybody use this to mix cocktails? It's hilarious. So I'm going to start doing that.
Okay.
But 2, so the point, I don't know anything about cars, but I assume that it works more or less the same way, which is that the gas and the oil gets mixed in some amount of ratio, and then that happens in the engine, and then that stuff is put into the combustion motor, and then it explodes and you go fast.
Okay.
Is that not true? First of all, that's question number 1. Pat, is that true?
Well, okay. So for the listeners,
yeah,
when Boss told me he had a question about, I forget, gasoline. That he was going to ask
gasoline,
me?
yeah.
And I was like, why the fuck do I know anything about that? And he's like, well, you know about cars. And I was like, okay, fine. I guess we'll see. And then he started telling this, and I was like, I can't imagine what the fuck he's going to ask me. And then he starts telling the story, and I'm like, oh fuck, he means this is what he thinks is about cars. So
engines? Do cars not have combustion engines?
well, they do. This is not a thing that I know a lot about, but there
Yeah,
are
I mean, okay, some of them
multiple.
are electric.
Yeah, so like it's a different kind of combustion engine. I think it's a
Oh,
2-stroke versus a 4-stroke.
oh, that's true. It did say 2-stroke. I had to
Yeah.
pay attention to that when I was reading the manual, which, by the way, was very Chinese. By which I mean it was in English, but like the various sections were like clearly copy pasted, and sometimes the same sentence, one sentence would interrupt itself with the beginning of itself again. It would be like, it's
Oh,
really
hell yeah.
important to mix the gasoline, and it's really important to mix the gasoline oil in this exact formula or whatever. And it was really, and we were reading it for the first time in the water. Anyway,
That sounds great. Well, you have almost more experience at running a 2-stroke engine than I do.
exciting.
I've used a lawnmower. That's about it.
Okay.
But in a car, you don't want the oil. You don't burn the oil, and that's why like
Oh.
2-stroke engines are, I don't know, very bad for the environment, basically.
So when you get this will surprise you, but I can change my own oil in my car,
Mm-hmm.
even though I clearly don't know what it does. But like, what does the oil in a car do? Is it literally lubricant for like?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Never mind. All right. So I thought that it was also going into the gas in the same way that a 2-stroke motor does. Okay. Well, that answers my follow-up question, which is now nonsensical, which is, why are these two things not sold pre-mixed? Like, why wouldn't they just come out of the gas station pre-mixed? Why do I have to go to two separate places to get oil and gas? But now I understand the oil's doing a different thing. So
I would strongly suspect you can go to like a place that will sell them pre-mixed, but not
like
a gas station, because a gas station is for other things.
Yeah,
I mean, that's also, to be clear, I did not go to a boat related place for my gas either. Like, I went to, well, okay, so it said it was like Atlantis Marina, and I was like the closest marina in Chicago to my house by far, because it was 2 blocks away, which, you know, people who know me personally will know 2 blocks away is not close enough to be on the water. And so I went there, and it was a garage, and there were 2 Mexican American dudes
services boats, but not
that were like, I was like, hey, I have a problem with my boat, and they were like, you need the boss, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm about to be really embarrassed practicing my Spanish, and I did my best, and I was like, I need gasoline, and they was like, oh, okay, cool, yeah. I was like, it has to be E10 gasoline, and he was like, yeah, totally, which I don't know if he did that, but when he came back to me with the gas tank, and I was like, no, I don't have my boat here. Can you give me something to bring this with? And
oh, you didn't have a gas can?
No, I didn't have a gas can. And so he turned to his friend and he said in Spanish, are you drinking that? And the guy was like, no. And so he poured out a Gatorade bottle, and then we filled it with gasoline together. And then he was like, is this enough? And I was like, I hope so. And then we took the boat and we sailed it to Evanston from Loyola Bay.
Right. I'm not up on Chicago municipal codes because I moved away, but I'm pretty sure that's illegal. You're not allowed to put, I guess maybe.
I mean, you're definitely not supposed to, but like,
you can't put it in a.
Gas motors on bodies of water is usually a no-go.
What? Oh, that part I didn't know.
What?
Really? That can't be.
That's not true.
Like the
my friend's a lawyer. I don't think he would have allowed us to do that.
Well, he had an electric one. What were you thinking was illegal? Because I know like there's waterways around here.
You can't put gasoline in a Gatorade bottle. It's definitely illegal in Chicago. Okay. Like 100. I'm pretty sure it's illegal here too.
Yeah. Yes. That almost. You usually have to put it.
But then again, it dawns on me that maybe that guy wasn't exactly licensed to sell gasoline.
Yeah, it's clearly.
He didn't sell gasoline. This was a gift.
Especially because you doxed them.
I actually think I remember the name wrong, but
like, God, even don't you watch Always Sunny? I'm pretty sure they educated you on it. You can't just put gasoline and sell it out of
a
van.
I think you're right. I remember that. Damn. Well, I'm glad I didn't remember that at the time.
So most of the lakes in the Chicago area only allow electric motors and not gas motors. So keep that in mind for your illegal.
Well, we were on Lake Michigan. I think it's different.
I'm pretty sure I've definitely seen gas motors on Lake Michigan.
Yeah, like on Lake Michigan, you're probably fine.
Yeah. I mean, this life raft was not registered with the Port Authority like last year's life raft. So there may have been an
Whoa.
issue there too. But yeah.
So,
Okay. Well,
Pat,
thanks, Pat. You.
I have a
thanks for
hard
my
mode
questions.
question for Pat.
Oh God.
Is it also about gasoline?
Yeah, no, it's on the same topic.
All right.
Why the two-stroke burns oil? Like why he needs to have the fuel
Oh, yeah,
mixture
what's
for
a
two
stroke?
strokes and not
Stroke is number of cylinders, right? Am I?
So it's
so
like based on the number of pistons, yeah.
well, I think it's about like the diagram I'm about to draw with my hands.
Yeah.
This could be very wrong. So listeners, write it in Vince's YouTube comments.
Yeah.
So in a 4-stroke engine, the explosion only comes from one direction, like from the top down, and it like pushes a thing which turns a crank, or whatever. That might not be true in a 2-stroke. So you like need the stuff on both sides, which should include the oil so that it's lubricated or something. I don't really know.
No, I've gone on to Wikipedia.com.
Well, wait, but when I pour the thing into the 2-stroke engine, which I didn't do because it was illegal, they were mixed. So I don't think it's two separate liquids, like one coming from one direction and one.
No,
from the
but
other.
like okay. So on a car engine, there's like a piston head, and above it, gas gets injected into it and explodes and like pushes it down.
Okay.
Now, because in basically all those cars there are multiple cylinders, they're like offset so that one of the other ones explodes and pushes it back up.
Okay.
Roughly. I think 2-stroke engines are like one cylinder, and so something else has to push it back.
Okay. I've got it here from here.
Okay.
All right. So so like in your car there's like 4 pistons.
There's
right?
12 in mine, but thank you.
But okay, well, whatever. Fine.
Some multiple of 4, probably.
Okay, the stroke of the engine refers to how many times the piston cycles before another explosion happens in that piston. So like a 4-stroke engine would mean the thing cycles 4 times and then gets exploded again, and then cycles 4 times and then gets exploded again.
Okay, so that explains the naming. So then why does a 2-stroke engine need oil in a way that a 4-stroke engine doesn't?
Yeah, I didn't.
I'm sorry, why does it need it in the gasoline specifically? That's the question I'm asking.
Yeah, that's what I want to know.
And why does it have to be so precise? I guess it has to be so precise for the chemical explosion.
Okay.
Man, I'm looking at all these.
2-stroke engines are lubricated by a mixture in a total loss system. Oil is mixed into the petrol fuel beforehand. In a fuel to oil ratio around 32:1. The oil then forms emissions either by being burned. Okay, so like it seems like the lubricant is essentially just like built into the gas rather than injected separately by some other part of the car.
Wait, so it is putting it in the gasoline? A car is putting it into the
gasoline. It's like putting it in.
No.
Damn it!
Just look at this animation on Wikipedia.
Okay, readers, go
how
to
much
Wikipedia.
of this is going to make the time?
100%.
That's up to you.
I'll kill you.
That's right at the end.
This is staying in.
You can put this infographic in the video version of your podcast, and we'll drive people to your YouTube channel.
The viewers, tell Vince.
Do not promise things for me.
No. Tell Vince that you loved this. Okay, well, whatever. I think we got most of the way to the conversation. I look forward to the day that this podcast releases on our Discord, and the only thing anybody's talking about is trying to explain this to me, and I get pinged 400 times.
Hell yeah.
Until then, are we a podcast?
Sure.
I hope so.
Yeah, the podcast is called Alfredo's Sides New Taco Truck. Thanks, guys.
All right, great job. We're stopping the podcast.
Good job.
Okay, so we're talking about monsters. We're talking about Carl Con. We're doing Back of the Box. We're talking about monsters.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've got the easiest Back of the Box ever for you.
Don't say that.
Oh, you're going to be so excited. Okay, where is... All right.
And I'm asking Pat about gasoline. That's the other thing I'm doing.
Oh, yeah, and Pat about gasoline.